Councilmember Dewar, can you hear us?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here for our Wednesday, May 17th meeting of the Reno City Council. We're going to go ahead and get this meeting started. The mayor is en route right this moment. I actually think she's out in the lobby, but she'll be in here momentarily. So we would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And if we could get Joan Mack to lead us in the pledge. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor. Breckus? Here. Dewar?
Here.
Delgado? McKenzie? Jarden? Bobzine? Cheevy? Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum. All right. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk. Madam Mayor, our next item is public comment. And our first public comment today is from Amanda Horn, followed by Joan Mack.
We have the presentation. There's a presentation. Oh, perfect. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for allowing me time today to talk about my passion, arts and culture. My name is Amanda Horn, and I proudly serve as Director of Communications for the Nevada Museum of Art. The power of arts cannot be overstated. Art stimulates economies, connects and creates communities, and connects people. Arts creates jobs, and you know this. You cite arts and culture as a guiding principle to reimagining Reno. Your vision recognizes arts as an asset that can and does attract creative entrepreneurs. You boldly state in your vision that Reno is known as a place for arts and culture. And we thank you for this acknowledgement and this recognition that investment in arts is critical to the growth of a vibrant city. And we could not agree more. The Nevada Museum of Art illustrates in myriad ways how a significant, privately funded, accredited art institution contributes to the growth of an innovation economy. In 2015, the museum worked with EK Economic Consultants to complete an economic impact report, showcasing the museum's tangible contributions to the biggest little city at more than $16 million in 2015. And of course, the intangible benefits are much more. Now, we do a lot, and I don't have a lot of time today, so I'm going to take you through some highlights of what the museum does for this community. The Yale Cord Museum School serves more than 2,400 students per year with community-based classes and lifelong learning. Our education initiatives are diverse and widespread. We advance STEAM education across the state. We serve more than 8,000 Washoe County School District students each year through school tours and provide ongoing professional development for K through 12 educators. We cultivate diverse audiences through our monthly hands-on learning programs, which are free. We have free high school admission for Washoe County and Douglas County high school students. We have ongoing commitments to art exhibitions and programming for the Hispanic and Latino communities, and much more. Our Center for Art and Environment draws hundreds of research scholars from around the globe each year. You may remember two recent exhibits. Tahoe, A Visual History, which we did in 2015, drew more than 75,000 visitors and generated hundreds of news stories around the globe. We anticipate our upcoming summer feature, City of Dust, The Evolution of Burning Man, will rival the draw and excitement of the Tahoe show. Seven Magic Mountains, of course, was the museum's first large gesture into Southern Nevada. It has generated millions of dollars in earned media publicity for the state and has opened up a serious dialogue about the future of visual arts across the state and the museum's role in fostering such. We've long been in service to the state. You'll also remember the Emancipation Proclamation that was here for the 36-star exhibition and more. The museum serves as a public square for the community, and the Nevada Museum of Art deeply appreciates the grants the city of Reno has awarded us over the years. As Reno grows, and as the museum continues to evolve and to explore new ways to increase our services to the community, we hope that the city of Reno will support the Nevada Museum of Art at the same levels you currently do Arttown and the Pioneer. Great cities stand behind their great cultural institutions, and we look forward to enhancing our partnership with the city of Reno. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, our next public comment is from Joan Mack, followed by Landon Mac.
Mayor, Council, I am Joan Mack, and all the great citizens of this great city, Reno, Nevada. I've been in this city since 1957. In fact, it was May 5th, 1957. I've seen a lot of changes, good, some not so good, but I am really concerned about the downtown district. I know when we had a problem with false alarms, there were several people that put their heads together, formed a committee with the police department, with the alarm committees, the power company, and business people, Wilton Hers, myself, and Louis Bergarello headed the meetings. We had a meeting. We gave our time, lifetime, 25 years, once a month, to meet with all these representatives from the business people and the police and everything. And most of the meetings were at the police station. Everybody worked together, and we satisfied, instead of just putting more service charges on the business people and the people that had alarms, that we would take all the equipment out of the police stations, and the alarm companies would actually police themselves. In other words, the people that had alarms could call if they had a false entry, or if they were actually the one that committed the offense to have an alarm. And it worked out beautifully. And when the alarm companies committed to doing that, it saved the city so much time and money, because we didn't have to use our officers to run after all these false alarms. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves now, because we have some problems downtown, and I think the business people, the property owners, could get together with the city and the police department, and we can find solutions to these situations. And I'm ready to give my time, and I hope everybody else is, because we need to make this city something we can be proud of again. and we don't want to lose this. Thank you for listening to me. Please call on me. I've got oodles of ideas.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, our next public comment is from Landon Mac, followed by Sam Danae.
Good cop, bad cop. I had a very much longer speech planned for this, but I came across some information that I found interesting, and I don't know if it be true or what's happening. But if it is, it really kind of negates everything that I had planned to say. And if it's true, it's very disturbing that I'm standing here and reading that you want to raise my assessments for the police district and even charge me if this city is now taking a hands-off policy on vagrants and everything else. If it's not true, then we can move on to other things. But it sure seems to be, because every year our assessments go up and up, and we see less and less police and more vagrants, panhandlers, and it's getting very, very violent downtown. Just yesterday, I was moving a 4,000-pound safe out with American Safe and Lock, and an owner of a business that just went out of business, out of his building, and we were accosted by two panhandlers, and there was 4 of us, and we're all pretty good size. One is 6'8", but that didn't seem to stop him. And as we were loading into the car, a lady in a shopping cart just tried to spit on us. This is what you're faced. There's one last really important, an older couple I talked to that dove into the El Dorado, but I ran down the stairs of my office, and they'd been coming here for years and years. They quit about 5 years ago, and they came back because they liked Reno, and it was easy to get to for them. But after what happened to them, they were accosted on the street by 2 panhandlers, vagrants, whatever, and they just flat said, and then their words, "We'll never come back to this, bleeping place." Something really needs to be looked at, because it's getting now to where it's physically dangerous. And I'm sorry to say, but it looks like somebody has to either get hurt or die, because that's where it's really come to. They're actually starting to attack each other because there's no more pedestrians. And I just want to leave you with one, because they say a picture or a photo is worth 1,000 words, and this is directly off your website, and it's from Puma's action plan. And if you notice here, it's a beautiful sunny day in Reno, Nevada, and it seems to be calm winds, and it looks warm because this guy's in a T-shirt, and the flags are limp. But what's missing in this whole picture? Traffic and pedestrians. Literally, the policies of this city now has destroyed commerce in downtown Reno. And just to prove it, in the last 5 years, we're down 90% in pedestrian traffic. Thanks.
Madam Mayor, our next public comment is from Sam Danae, followed by Megan Berner.
Sam, DNA, Danae, that's me. The DNA of Reno government, the heart and soul and body and mind of Reno government. I repeat that sometimes for my YouTube fans out there. Sam Danae, that's me. I'm an Air Force Academy graduate. Spent many years flying B-52 bombers and F-4 Phantoms, defending our nation. And I see a lot of new faces here. What we have today, ladies and gentlemen, is the budget meeting, and we're inundated with citizens worried about the budget. Not. I'm virtually the only one here, except for a few people who are very important on their own, but I am the person who is responsible for 92% of the good things about Reno. He said, "How do you say that, Sam?" Well, it's the Lord's truth, and everybody knows it. The media mouse wacko freaks who don't even have the guts to come down here anymore because they get excoriated and castigated mercilessly, justifiably, by Sam DNA Danae. I am, for instance, I said, "What did you do?" Well, I nominated the fire chief. I nominated the police chief. I even went a step further with the city manager, where I bet $100 that she would be the new city manager. And guess what? She won. That immediately drove her opponent off. If Sam's going to bet on that lady, I got to get out of here. And her opponent, nice smiley face. Her opponent just up and left, just like that. I could go on with a list of important things that I've done. I probably saved the city more money than all of the cities added together, citizens added together. I see the gentleman back there who runs the soccer league. It reminds me that back in the mid-90s, I was a driving force that saved soccer when the city, Jeff Griffin and his gang, were ready to shut it down. I won't go into the background. I paid $100 of my own money so they could have security for the soccer match. And sure enough, who knows what would have happened in the future, but they were ready to shut it down right then. Okay, guess what? I was at the county commission meeting yesterday, and they forced me to file my first open meeting law violation that I've filed in 15 years. I used to file them every week because I caught the city and the county violating the open meeting law, the laws of how these meetings are supposed to be run. I caught them violating the laws every single day. But guess what? The Attorney General down there whitewashed virtually every one of my perfectly logical open meeting law violations. Anyway, yesterday at County Commission, their order, their agenda, just like you have agenda here, says citizens will speak on the numbered agenda items. Okay, item 4, I wanted to speak. I turned in my speaker request. There were about 200 people there, all of them Sam DeNeige fans, except I'm sitting over here, and the county commissioner says, just continued on, and I did, point of order, I have a request to speak. And he said, citizens cannot speak on non-action items. I said, no, you're wrong. And he said, if you say one more word, I'm going to have you removed. There were 8 armed deputies there. So I said, you're wrong. They were wrong. I was right. And an honest attorney general will find me right. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you over there.
All right, thank you, Sam.
Madam Mayor, our next public comment is from Megan Berner, followed by Chris King.
Good afternoon. My name is Megan Berner. I'm Chair of the Arts and Culture Commission, and speaking on behalf of Arts and Culture and in support, following up on what Amanda Horn from the museum had said about economic impact of the arts and the importance of them to the livelihood and vibrance of the city. I presented to you all earlier in the year about some of the new strategic directions of the commission, so I won't get into that, but just to say that some new developments, we have partnership with the fire department. There's a new mural out on 4th Street. That was a collaboration between the city and the fire department. And then there's a new mural going up at Wilkinson Park. That's a collaboration with the VA hospital. And you know, we're continuing to support Art Town, various other nonprofit or arts organizations. With the Midtown Virginia Street Corridor Project, RTC is asking for our collaboration with public art in that area, which is really exciting. So we are super grateful for the support that we already receive from you, and we are continuing to use it to transform the city, create new community partnerships, opportunities for the public to engage, and with more support, we can do more. So thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next public comment is from Chris King, followed by Richard J.
Mashivi, council members, my name is Chris King. I'm here representing Reno Continental Little League. I'm the president of that league and have been for the last 6 years. I also am here as a board member of Reno Youth Sports Association. I know Councilman Durr has been working with us. There is a concern, legitimate concern, about the parking lot at the fields for both Reno Continental Little League, also South Reno Babe Ruth. I know there's been a lot of information put on Facebook. I'm not necessarily sure all of that is accurate. For the record, I would like to clear up that there's a lot of collaboration between Richard J., between soccer, between baseball. This is not intended to be a competition between either sport. I think everyone who serves on Reno Youth Sports Association is trying to do their best to support youth sports in this community for all sports. But we would appreciate consideration for looking at the parking lot. There are significant safety concerns, unfortunately, due to the deterioration of the asphalt. I can tell you that Reno Continental has significantly fundraised for other things. We put in brand new lights through our own fundraising. We have put in a new field through our own fundraising, but obviously there are limits to what a Little League with 300 kids can do. So again, appreciate the support, and anything can be done would be much appreciated.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank
Agreed
you.
with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Richard J., followed by William Thornton.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, council members, and city manager. Richard J., representing Great Youth Basin Youth Soccer League, NYSA and RYSA. I agree with Chris King, 100% cooperation is necessary. I want to thank your efforts for this budget process. I know it's long, it's arduous, it's probably lost a lot of sleep over it, but you guys have done a great job. No matter what budget is presented, nobody's ever going to be 100% happy. So good job, guys. I did want to talk about some possibilities going out there, but over the weekend we had some social media comments, and I did want to clarify a little bit of information that might help out, and I'd like to enter it for the public record. Back in 2012, the Moana area was deemed to be blighted. So through the help of the council members back then, we came up with a master plan with the baseball, swim people, as well as soccer. We all worked together to come up with a master plan. We decided that, where the soccer, swim facilities, and baseball was going to go. Great Basin started a fundraising campaign, and in a matter of 109 days, we raised $208,000 for the building of these soccer fields. This was private money. This was not city money. Three entities worked very hard together and continue to work together on this. Once the fields had done the agreement with the city of Reno as well as GBYSL is that these fields would be maintained 100% by the end user, GBYSL. This includes mowing, field maintenance, sprinklers, aeration, and we just spent $8,000 on putting in a much needed booster pump out there. We understand the agreement, and we are 100% behind it. So again, no taxpayer dollars are being spent out there. As partners, we do need to work on the situation with the parking lot, and this is something that has been in the works for several months now. Councilmember Durer and myself have been doing a lot of meetings and going out there. Unfortunately, Chris Barrett and Jeff Bean from Q&D Construction cannot be here because as of this moment right now, they're out on the fields with NV Energy looking at the power poles and coming up with different ideas. So in closing, there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes that people may not realize. And I would encourage them to reach out to their council members, ask what's going on, and just before going off on a tirade on Facebook, do a little bit of homework, do a little bit of research. That's all we ask. Thank you so much. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you for all your hard work.
William Thornton.
My name is William Thornton. I have something to discuss. I've signed as a public comment. I think it's probably in the agenda. I can make comments now. Make comments now?
Yes, go right ahead.
Well, I don't want to be limited to
You have 3 minutes.
All right. I've been chasing after another gaming license for several years. We located a Super 8 motel and adjacent property. I had a lot of trouble with John Fry. I told him I wanted to have a casino there, and he told me he would buy me, and he has. I think I've dealt with your city attorney's office, and they've had difficult dealings. The problem is getting inculcated as the properties in all the blighted property. I don't believe we had a chance to stay informed of the blighted property. But we unblighted the property about 3 years ago by putting in a good street from our lane and sidewalk and putting a turnaround at the end where nothing to it is. And we worked on a lot of issues that way. I don't think there's a good understanding with blighted property, and I want to work with the new city manager. For the last 3 years, numerous city managers, assistant city managers, and so it's been very difficult to deal with. And I'm ready to start again and see what we can do with it. I have a background, several years at Calneva. I've done a lot of things to improve the town, including putting that mural on the wall up there. I was mayor for one day in the 1940s because the Boy Scouts picked people to be civil cities. And I was picked to be the mayor. So I enjoy the business. I've done a lot for downtown. I put a clock outside the door here. I don't hold back 5 foot. A lot of things in the Super 8 motel. And the problem there is it has 155 rooms, and the current now is 300 rooms. On the blighted property, it would work. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And you have done a lot for this city. We appreciate it. Are you proud of the clock?
Yeah.
Looks pretty good, huh?
I got a few things.
Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, we have no further general public comment today.
All right, great. All right, at this time, may I get a motion to approve the agenda? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Madam Mayor, our next item is item 5, the downtown SAD public hearing, and I do have public comment on this.
Okay, great.
Our first public comment is from Sam Danae.
Sam, DNA, Danae. The DNA of Reno government. I sound redundant, but we have so many new people suddenly leaving the room that I thought I'd introduce myself again. What we have today, ladies and gentlemen, is the budget for Reno, Nevada, with 300,000 people in our community, and I'm calculating roughly we've got 4 citizens in the room, the rest all being staff and administrative and CPA geniuses. And I'm not including myself in that CPA genius, although I just do what I do pragmatically to make things better. I don't calculate the amount of money it's going to save or not save. I do everything that I do philanthropically, means I do it for free, for the goodness of my soul. My brain and my heart and my soul and my mind I do it for free because there's not enough money to pay me for the value of my heart and soul and body and mind, and they're all nodding their heads back there. Yes, that's true. And what we have now is theoretically the assessment for the special assessment district downtown, and it's relating to police and maintenance special assessments. And I've always been in favor of law enforcement. I've spoken in favor of law enforcement more than all the other citizens really added together at these podiums. That doesn't mean that other citizens are not happy with law enforcement, but I guess it means that they're all happy with what I say about law enforcement, that law enforcement is one of the reasons for government. When law enforcement protects and saves citizens and properties, and that's what they do. Now, I don't know how many law enforcement personnel you're talking about here, but I'm on the, if it's as much as Chief Soto wants, then I'm in favor of it. And as I remind you and remind the city manager, I was the person who nominated Chief Soto when the city council brought him in as a temporary chief after the city council basically fired the previous chief, Steve Pitts. And I came to the podium and I said, that man, Soto, Mr. Soto, Chief Soto, is to be the permanent chief. And you obeyed my orders. Colonel Sam Danae, I ordered you to make him permanent chief, and you did. Same thing with the fire department over there. Nice smiley face over there, and it's the Lord's truth. You know, I always come up here and say, if anybody, these people up here, they see me every day, every week. If they want to challenge and say, well, Sam, it wasn't 92%. 92%, how can you be so accurate? We got the CPAs here, the head of the budget right there. Why doesn't he come up and say, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, Sam is wrong. He is not responsible for 92% of the good things. It's actually 94%, 95%. At any rate, nobody ever wants to challenge the fact that I'm responsible for an awful lot of the good things. And if you gave me another 3 hours, nice smiley face over there, if you gave me another 3 hours, I could even start telling you what the good things are. Now, would you please thank me like you do everybody else?
Yes, thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
Good
Thank you
job.
for thanking me, and
Good
you're
job.
welcome.
All right, thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, we have no further public comment.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. Okay, item 5, staff report regarding assessments and approval of the levy of assessments for fiscal year 17-18 for the Downtown Police Special Assessment District and the Downtown Maintenance Special Assessment District.
Madam Mayor, just point of order with the attorneys. Do we need to open the hearing formally on this item? Yes. So we can open the hearing.
All right, I would now like to open the hearing. Was proper notice given?
Yes, Madam Mayor, proper notice was given. We received 3 letters in opposition of the project from Gerald Hansen, Jacob and Anastasia Caldwell, and Ted Schroeder representing the California Avenue Group. No further correspondence was received, and I do not have public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Perfect. Take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Travis Trouville. I'm management assistant for the Capital Projects Division, and I'm also your Special Assessment District Coordinator. Today's hearing is to consider the annual assessments for the 2 downtown districts, the Police and Maintenance District that are both located in the downtown area. Under NRS 268, we are required to hold this hearing at the same time and location as the tentative budget hearing. And today we're asking, or following the hearing, Council, please approve the proposed rates for the 2 districts and levy the assessments for each of the districts to provide the funding that's necessary for the 2017 and 2018 fiscal year. These 2 maps here give you kind of an idea of the areas that we're talking about. On the left is our Downtown Police Special Assessment District. This district has about 2,025 properties in it. On the left, on the right, is our Downtown Maintenance Special Assessment District. This district has about 615 properties in it and sits pretty squarely right inside the Police Special Assessment District. So to note, this district here, the folks within this district are paying into both districts. A little bit of background and history on these 2 districts. They were created through the petition process as outlined under NRS 268. And what this essentially means is that the citizens within the districts came to the city with the correct petition as outlined in 268, asking for the creation of these districts. So in 1995, the district was created as a taxing district. In 1997, we converted the taxing district through ordinance into a special assessment district. And in 2014, the boundaries of that district were expanded, and this again was done through the petition process. Maintenance district was created using the same process, again, petition. In 1992, it was created as a taxing district. 1997, it was converted over into the special assessment district, the process we're using now. And in 2016, the advisory committee came to council asking to freeze the current rate at the .003053 number to be used moving forward, and that is the rate that we're asking council to approve today for the maintenance district. The downtown police district, as I mentioned, has about 2,025 properties in it. The district as a whole, it has $316 million in assessable property. So the rate that we're asking to be proposed for the police district is the 0.00499,218 number. We're expecting this proposed rate to generate about $1.578 million. And this actually should be noted also, this is a decrease in the rate from the previous year. So our maintenance district, again with 615 properties in it, has a assessable property value as a whole of $98.5 million. The proposed rate for this is that frozen rate of 0.0030573, and the estimated revenue for this district to be collected under that rate is $301,352. So a quick timeline is kind of where we've come from, where we still need to go. This district, we started the process January, February-ish, receiving the tax roll from Washoe County. This allowed us to create the notices that were sent to each property owner and allow them to see what the rates being proposed are and what the possible assessments would be. Under NRS, everything had to be mailed out by April 20th. We advertised in the RGJ for today's hearing, and as of June 15th, we have to have the rates that are approved today and the rolls submitted to Washoe County in order to have them processed for the next fiscal year. So to kind of recap, what we're asking council is to approve the rate of 0.0030573 for the maintenance district, the rate of 0.00499,218 for the police district, and to levy the rates to fund next year's special assessment districts in the downtown area. Thank you.
All right, good job. All right, any questions from council? Councilwoman Dewar, are you there? I just want to make sure. Sounds like.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, just checking.
Thank you.
All right. If there are no questions from council, no, we already took public comment. So may I get a motion then?
I have a question.
Yeah, go right ahead. Vice Mayor Darden.
Thank you. So we had someone during public comment that questioned about this rate. Can you clarify for the record that the rates have actually gone down?
They have.
Okay.
Well, again, the maintenance district rate's been frozen, so that hasn't moved. The police district rate has dropped. The rate is a function of the revenue collected from the previous year, adjusted by CPI. So that gives us our target number, and that target number is then divided by the total valuation of the district. So as the district increases in valuation, which is what's happening right now, we'll see that rate come down. Kind of somewhat compensates for the increase in general assessable property value.
Got it. Okay, just wanted to clarify that on the record. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I mean, I think this hearing that we do every year is, it's got that good news on the assessment, but it also lays the template for the path that we are saying we want to go down in the creation of the business improvement district. So we'll see if this is the last time we do this, because we might be looking and thinking about another creature next year. And so thanks for the briefing. It's a baseline reminder of the services and the tax burden that people are paying for downtown for this effort.
I'll make a motion.
Go right ahead.
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right. Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor, our next item is item 6, the budget adoption.
All right. Thank you very much.
And we do need to open the formal hearing on this as well.
All right, let's do this. I will now open the public hearing. Has proper notice been given?
Yes, Madam Mayor, proper notice was given and no correspondence was received on this item.
All right.
I do have public comment from Sam Danae.
All right, great.
Sam Danae, the DNA of Reno government, heart, soul, body, and mind. And for the folks out there watching the Sam Danae mini marathon today, this is part 3, just to keep in track, part 3 of 4. What we have now is again, I look around the room and all of these concerned citizens, nice smiley face, all of these concerned citizens. This budget director here must be doing a phenomenal job because there's nobody down here to even say good things or bad things about whatever the budget is that he's going to present. But except Sam, and I'm speaking for 300,000 people. Some lady told me the other day that I don't speak for her, so I got to start saying I speak for 299,999 people. At any rate, whatever this budget is that you're going to approve, and I speak to the city manager through the city mayor and so on, whatever the budget is, and she hasn't been here very long, she hasn't had the chance to see Sam Danae up close and personal and find out how really, really brilliant he is, even though she may not, and she's not allowed to acknowledge it, probably been in there with the same thing like the media mouse wacko freaks, scared to death of the 10-ton elephant in every room, bringing the truth. Whatever this budget is, and I'm sure it's going to be a fine budget, I got to tell you right now, if it wasn't for Sam Danae, me, and all of his humble brilliance, this budget would be much, much higher than it is, or worse. What can I say? Much worse. I can go quickly through the list of the things that I've done, been the driving force or the driving force that I've done to bring taxes into our community. Not that I like taxes. The thing I hate more than taxes is seeing them wasted by bureaucrats. At any rate, the truth of the matter is, if you take, for instance, Burning Man, where everybody wanted to shut Burning Man down, I wonder how much he could calculate that Burning Man brings into our community. I'm sure he's not going to do it, I'm fairly sure, but it's dozens of millions of dollars to the coffers of Reno, directly and indirectly. That's one thing. I was the driving force that saved Burning Man when the bureaucrats wanted to shut it down in 2003. We could go on with marijuana. How much money is medical and recreational marijuana going to bring in? 20%, 30%, 40% taxes, unbelievable. I was a driving force that got marijuana for medical marijuana for Reno when they kept postponing it, and I said, do it. And they finally put it on the agenda because of me. Nobody else came up and said, let's get going. Finally, they did it. Now we got more taxes coming in. I don't know how these businesses are going to stay in business with all the competition, by the way. I was a driving force. You can ask Colonel Kazmierski over there at EDON, the head of EDON. He begged me, recruited me to be a driving force to bring Tesla to Reno. Now we've got the Tesla effect and the Tesla affect. That's some ways good, sometimes bad. We actually need more taxes to take care of Tesla, but that's a whole different story. The school tax. I was in charge of getting this school tax passed through, and as an infinite school tax, I don't know if it's in his budget, but you're going to have school taxes coming in here infinitely until the end of time. Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Thank you for the smiley face, and thank you over there.
All right, thanks, Sam.
Madam Mayor, I
You're
have no
welcome.
further public
Good job.
comment. No further comment.
Okay.
All right. Good afternoon. Robert Chisel, Director of Finance and Administration for the record. I'm going to quickly go through a presentation here, but before I get started, just want to do a quick recap of how we got here. Back in October, we had our first budget kickoff with the council, and at the kickoff, we also received council direction on the priorities for the budget. Staff worked with the city manager to develop a proposed budget. We had budget briefings in April and then 2 budget workshops, May 2nd and May 9th, where we got input from the council on any changes based on the proposed city manager budget. As I go through here, we will review the general fund, the enhancements, and any council direction we received from the last 2 workshops. This all needs to be approved today so that we can complete our documents for the June 1st submittal to the Nevada Department of Taxation, which will be the next step. That will require quite a bit of work on our staff's part, so it's imperative that we keep going and moving along in this process. So just a quick recap on the general fund. These are the projected numbers for fiscal year 17, the recommended and proposed numbers for fiscal year 18. Quickly going through them, you will see property tax is going up about 2.5%. Consolidated tax is 4%. Most other numbers are flat with the exception of charges for services, which don't take into account the strike teams and other grants that we have as we go through. This general fund expenditures, we see there are increases. We remember, as we budget the salaries, we budget to the actual salary numbers based on where the person is on their grade and step. Then we calculate in salary savings that we calculate into those numbers. Supplies and services and capital, all pretty much all of our expenditures are fairly flat in other areas. These are the recommended additional positions that we are adding to the budget. In the general fund, we are proposing adding a code enforcement officer, 5 police officers, and 1 sergeant. Later on, you'll see where we have a program for police to maintain their attrition program and maintain the 323 officers. There's also an addition of a program assistant in CAC. From room tax, a senior irrigation tech specialist starting on January 1st. In the sewer department, up at Stead is a water reclamation facility supervisor, and then we also have a maintenance tech in the sewer fund. In the building fund, there is an additional building inspector, so for a total of 11 new positions being added in this budget. Any questions about the positions?
I guess I just want to reiterate what I think was previous direction on the positions, because 2 of those positions involve new programs. And we don't have a sketching out of those programs. I don't think there's a paragraph written about what that program would be. So the direction is, prior to hiring those positions, that these programs will be fleshed out as new initiatives so we can understand, program objectives, partnerships, codes or ordinances, policies needed in place, budget, measurable outcomes. Is that what everyone understands was the discussion about the hiring of these positions previously?
For the record, Saber Newby, yes, I've heard you before regarding I believe it's the motel program on that.
Yeah.
And we are to bring back a program to this council prior to the hiring of that position.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead. Councilmember McKenzie.
Thank you. And Mr. Chisel, there's discussion about a inspector or not an inspector, a plans checker for doing the health department check for under the building department. We discussed that. I know that the Building Enterprise Fund Advisory Committee had recommended that we do that, and I don't see that position on here.
The intent was not to have it as a position. It was increased funding for that. There was funding available, and you'll see that in the enhancement, but not as a position within the city of Reno.
So the idea is that we'd contract with the county for a county employee to work in our building department and answer to our building.
For the record, Bill Thomas, Assistant City Manager. The concept would be, as you've explained it, which is we would provide the resources to the health department to address our needs. So it would be a contract with the health department is what it's contemplated to be, not necessarily a new city employee or an employee of the city.
Okay.
And out of that would be the service. So it could very well be that their employees they already have are going to step it up or change what they do in exchange for that, or they might hire a person. But that was the intent. Not to be a city employee, but to be a resource we could use to get the plan review timeframes we're looking for.
Okay, because the concept that was discussed with the Enterprise Fund Committee was that that position would be housed in our building department. There was discussion about whether they were going to be a county employee or we'd hire them, but the position would be housed in our department, so.
Right, that would be, yes, that was the contemplation. They would physically be here, whether it was a county employee or a contract employee hired by the county or a contract employee hired by us to work for the county. Any one of those scenarios could satisfy it, but we don't know exactly how that's going to play out.
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
I just wondered, is this time limited? In other words, do we expect to fund this year after year, or are we thinking a 5-year period, or will you bring us back some information before we actually move forward with hiring any positions?
Again, for the record, Bill Thomas, Assistant City Manager. We would be bringing back to the council, as we anticipated, an agreement that would define the terms under which we would be spending the money. So yes, you would see it. It's not our contemplation that this is ongoing. We would hope that it is a catalyst to get a long-term solution.
Okay, thanks. Sounds good.
And I guess just one other question on the FTEs is, I think last budget, we put in a quarterly report, whereas any reorgs, refills, any modifications to the staffing complement that we have approved here today is told to the council on a quarterly basis. I don't know if the council wants to take a bigger look at that, whereas anytime there is a change, it's comes to the council for ratification. That's how the county does it. So that's kind of an open question. I'm also wondering, at this point, on our more or less, I'll call it our small bucket of appointed and non-civil service positions, is this budget going to drive any changes to this, or has there been any changes through the mid-year allocation of positions that would go into the non-represented category?
Robert Chisel, for the record again. Looking at the positions, I don't believe any of these would fall under the appointive positions. Police officers, code enforcement, program assistant would, be
Sure.
Not in that. We have room, I believe, for a couple positions, 4 positions.
4 positions.
In that complement before we would reach our cap.
Okay.
We keep track of that. And as people come and go, there is some alteration in that, but usually it's only 1 or so a year. So.
I feel like it's been months since I've seen that list. And last time I heard the list, we had room for more than 4. So I think that there's been some reporting to council that hasn't been accounted for.
We would be happy to submit a new count to council of who is who is a point of officer and who is an appointive employee. Remember, there are
Yeah,
2
no,
groups.
I understand. I think a few have been added and the council hasn't been informed of those.
Okay.
All right.
All right, moving on to enhancements. These are the recommended enhancements for the general fund. We've gone over these a couple times, so I'll go quickly. For the clerk, we got increased noticing, document destruction, and training funds of 5, 10, and 10,000 each. The downtown management organization, you'll actually see this in 3 different locations. This is for the consultant to get the DMO going and off the ground. The sesquicentennial is 7,500. Financial system module, 21,100. Financial system interfaces, this is to the park system and the parking meter system, 15,000. Acela financial system interface, 11,812. Overtime for Acela, 15,000. Master plan noticing, 30,000. Regional plan update, this is through the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Authority, the 46,500. Continuing on, community development, the new vehicle and supplies for that code enforcement officer, 32,489. Police vehicles and supplies for the additional positions, $237,059. Muni Court, additional training funds, 5,000. Public Works, maintenance costs for the parking ticket dispenser in the parking garage, that's 11,000. Parks and Rec, tree mapping software, 2148. This is the second time you're going to see Downtown Management Org, 312,500. Technology maintenance on the new financial system, 5,400. New Acela licenses, this is for additional people that will be on the license, 50,000. And severance for a critical position that is going to be retiring, 15,000. For a total enhancement of the general fund of $881,508. Does anyone have any questions?
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question about the DMO?
Go right ahead.
Now, that's not the consultant's line item, so how's that envisioned to be incorporated in? Because we just approved the downtown, the SADs to make those whole for the year. So how's this going to build in for next year's scope?
Well, the 39,000 on the first is for the consultant
Sure.
to get the DMO going. So that's, and it may be less based on, there's been intent that there were private contributions that would help in that area.
Sure.
The second part is the 312,000, then you'll see 187,000 from room tax for a total contribution from the city for 500,000 to begin the DMO.
But I guess I'm trying to understand, begin the DMO. Are we, I mean, I think it's going to take at least 9 months to get the DMO built up. So this 500,000, what is the thought, Mr. Thomas, of how that will be deployed this year?
For the record, Bill Thomas, Assistant City Manager. So the consultant's estimate was that on an annual basis, there was about $1 million gap.
Yes.
So this would be the city funding half of that gap, and then the plan would be to raise the additional half through private sources, which we've already started on. The exact start date is likely to be halfway through the year, but, you know, again, this is so fresh.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to know for sure.
Okay.
Worst case, which I guess would be best case financially, is we would take longer to get it up and going, so there wouldn't be the full cost of the 500,000. But
Okay.
the uncertainty really is in this first year is what exactly is going to be the formula for others to contribute, and what is the true cost? Because remember, this is a consultant's estimate of the cost that could be different based on some of the regional partners kicking in-kind services.
Okay.
So this first year really is the test of what the actual cost is going to be, and so going forward, we have a better handle each year on what this is going to cost us.
Okay. So we'll just know that this 500,000 is parked somewhere, but there's a lot of steps that are going to need to happen to deploy it.
That's correct.
So it won't be touched otherwise. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't contemplate that money being spent without conversations back to the council.
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
All right, this is for Robert. Could you share with us then what would be the general fund ending balance?
This is Robert Chisel. The estimated ending fund balance will be $12,332,000 at the end of fiscal year 18, which will be about 7.1% of operating.
So is that just the general fund, or is that the whole overall?
That is just the general fund. Each fund is calculated separately. Due to state law and generally accepted accounting principles, it's not appropriate to mix the funds and the fund balances.
Right. So my thought was, you know, we had quite a bit of conversation at last council meeting about the TIPS, which is the Trauma Intervention Program, and there was conversation about, you know, possibly using council donation funds for that, taking that from various pots. I just wondered if there would be enough general fund balance to consider putting 25,000, you know, in there. I don't know if the rest of the council would support that. I know Mr. McKenzie was very passionate about it, but I just wanted to raise the raised the concept or the question.
Well, this is Robert Chisel. I mean, the ending fund balance ideally needs to be between 7 and 7.5%. We need to.
And what is it?
And it's 7.1%. And as we, all these are projections, so I can tell you for sure that what we estimate for the revenues is not going to come in. It's going to be different. We know that.
Right.
So
Right.
you know, it is up to council to make the decision on how to appropriate the budget. But I'd say as we start going along, the more times you take money from the ending fund balance, the more likely you won't have a 7.1% ending fund balance. It'll be less, and that
Right.
puts us in danger.
Well, this is the only time I would be proposing this, and it would, I guess, it would be conditional on there being, at least what you've estimated. But, and I don't know if there's support for this. I just know that several of the council were very passionate. This might be a place to do it. And we don't have to decide right now, just a bookmark for when we get to our final decisions.
All right, Councilwoman Dewar, my goal right now is to get through the final presentation, and then
fine.
That I would like everyone to weigh in. That way we have seen the entire proposed budget.
Oh, fine.
And
okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not there to grasp.
Oh, no, you're fine. And then I'm going to ask council to be extremely vocal about what they're wanting to accomplish. All right?
Okay.
So just let us get through this part, and then I'll certainly call on you again, okay?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Continuing on with the enhancements, from the room tax, you're going to see 187,500 for the DMO. Also mentioned in parks, we're going to add a vehicle for the new position we talked about. That's at senior irrigation position. More money for mowing, weeding, abatement. 11 new cameras for 11 parks. With streets, staff for weed abatement, and the skid steer, the other half of the skid steer you'll see in sewer. In the sewer fund, temporary for litigation. We're in a litigation over some piping, and hopefully this will be done this year. Temporary staff for various projects. Vehicle for a new position. This is the maintenance position in sewer to help deal with the lift stations and other facilities. And here's the other half of the skid steer. In the building permit fund, we're adding more training funds, a Title 18 update of $150,000, upgrade of 2 inspector positions, $8,600, more cell licenses is the building permit portion of it, $11,800. Health review permit assistant, this is where we're talking about that position. It's not a position, it's a assistance in the health department, $97,000. And the vehicle for the new position, this is the inspector that we had mentioned as a new position.
Madam Mayor,
And that is the enhancements. Yes.
would you mind going back one? Oh, wait, no, I apologize, you had it on the right page. So the vehicle for the sewer fund, is that a special vehicle?
Yes.
110
Yeah,
grand?
they're working on the lift stations, and
It better be.
it's
at that
not,
price.
it's a truck. It's
Better
really
fly
not, it's not a
for that
car. It's a
price.
truck.
It's a very special truck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
special.
Mr. Flansburgh could probably give more detail. It's very special.
And we don't have any means
Got
of
wings on it.
retrofitting anything else? I mean, it's no surprise, we're down to trying to find dimes
Well,
to.
this is from the sewer fund,
Okay, never mind.
so.
All right, go right ahead.
So those are our enhancements from the various funds, building permit fund, the sewer fund, and just going back, the room tax fund, the streets fund, and these were the general fund enhancements, the 881,000. And so just to go through them again, these were the enhancements in the general fund. Okay. And just to recap, a summary of changes, what we had taken from your direction on May 2nd and May 9th at those two workshops. What we have done is we added the building inspector 2 for the motel inspection program that's coming from the building permit fund. We added created an attrition fund of $420,000 in the police department to allow for the maintaining of what is sometimes referred to as the overhire, but is maintaining the 323 sworn officer complement, not just officers, those are total sworn. Reinstatement of staffing changes in the OCCE department, which was in the city manager's office. And reinstatement of council donations and travel to the $30,000 per member level. The sources of the funding above was of course, the building permit fund for the inspector, police department salary savings, they identified some savings, additional business license fees for the medical marijuana dispensaries, and increasing the parking fees from $1 to $1.50 per hour for the parking meters. Any questions on those?
No.
Okay.
I just have a few questions. There's some large bucket items for capital. I mean, large for us, but 400,000 parks projects, correct?
Correct.
And then there's, I can't remember how much is in sewer collection system. Isn't it $1.5 million?
Well, in the May 2nd, May 9th presentations in the back of your binder, during the presentations, we listed the CIP, and sewer had a total budget of $39,300,000 for sewer projects. And Mr. Flansburgh, the Public Works Director, went through that at the May 9th workshop, and it's in your binder. So if you have any questions, I'm sure he could answer them.
Well, here's kind of the thought, and it's maybe also for our new managers' advantage, is somewhere between these broad buckets and contract awards. I think that there needs to be some clarity on the council on what are the projects. So, for example, I hear, like to see this recreational parking lot paved. When that 400,000 in parks capital comes forward, maybe that'll be described in there, or something else, or is that 400,000 all been briefed out? Because I know Mary Gojak Park, ADA was in there. Are those all accounted for already?
I'm sure the Parks Department will be able to answer that question.
Yeah.
I will point out that as we went through the CIP, I can be honest, we have probably easily 20 times the needs for capital that we have funding for.
Yeah.
It is an area where we are woefully not to the level where we would like to be. But it is an area where we have to prioritize and make those decisions.
Yeah,
so.
it's just a thing of consternation when, we approve a broad bucket of 400,000 or whatever it is for the sewer collection fund, and then council doesn't provide the input, prior to being shown a contract to understand, what was a priority and why. So, Mr. Mann, is that 400,000 parks capital, has that all been kind of divvied up?
Parks, Recreation, Community Services. The 400,000 is our annual allotment for capital repairs and maintenance for smaller park items.
Smaller park items. Okay.
Items. So next year, half of it is going towards renovation of 4 playground safety surfaces.
Sure. Okay.
Replacement of the playground at Barb Bennett Park, and then some minor trail and sidewalk rehabs.
Okay, so there's 200,000 within there. I guess, and one thing I wanted to ask about that Barbara Bennett, I'm very excited about Barbara Bennett playground equipment. I think we have a little baby boomlet going on in urban Reno, and I think there's a lot of people who'd be excited about seeing that very outdated equipment being improved right in our downtown park. And I'll be looking for the Parks Department to explain a way in which we can do a participatory visioning effort of what sort of ingredients we'd like in that playground equipment in advance of, here's a contract for this equipment. I think doing participatory planning for parks is a very important effort, and I think it's also an effort that builds support for parks.
For the record, Jeff, man, that actually is our plan.
Oh, okay, good. So I guess the question then is, you know, if there's 200,000 and maybe that's where that parking issue is brought up or discussed.
Yeah, and for the 400,000 for the public works, in your binders, there was a list of what those projects were, and quickly going through, $25,000 for Fire Station 5 restroom remodel, $20,000 for the Paradise Park recreational facility floor replacement, $20,000 for City Center HVAC replacement, $60,000 for Fire Station 7 sand oil interceptor, $200,000 for the Amtrak roof replacement, HVAC replacement, exterior paint repair, and $135,000 for various building wrap and roofing priority items. So.
Okay. If I may just, in response to the tip request, sometimes I feel I'm not the best liaison to the FAB, and they come here and ask us often to go a different way than and they certainly did this time. But I would be uncomfortable dipping into the cash end balance when we are that thin for this nonprofit. But I want to suggest something that came up to me very recently when I was meeting with one of the really good human services provider, the Eddie House, last week, is I know you're not going to like this as our liaison to the CAC, but I think it's time that we start thinking about backing out even our 20% CDBG to the shelter operations and ask the county to come in 100%. That would free up 20% for us to do awards to human services projects at the smaller scale, to the Eddie houses, to the TIP, like we did before the shelter was built. So I know we just did a workout on the CAC contributions, and we bring in our CDBG, but I think there may be a way to go in a different direction, think about going in a different direction that can meet some of our human services needs that are going unmet.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to?
Nope, that is it.
Okay.
Right now, we would ask the council to approve or give us any changes
All right.
based
So-
on the 2 workshops we've already done and
Okay.
the presentation.
Thank you so much. I know that you guys have worked incredibly hard on this. I really want to commend staff. You guys have done a great job. I'm sure this is that one time a year that you are not getting any sleep. She's smiling, saying yes. And then we probably don't help whenever we start to throw out there the things that we know that we need to see out of this budget. So I appreciate your patience and all of staff's hard work, because I know it takes you guys months. How long? Or does it take you the entire year? How long does it take you to do
We
this?
started in October.
See? So I know that you've been living, eating, sleeping, breathing this. So hopefully we won't be too difficult. I do want to encourage council, this is the time to do it. I need you to be very vocal. I actually did speak to one council member before I sat down who had quite a bit of concerns. I want to make sure we get this done right. I'm not even opposed to, and I know many of you will not be happy about this, but I'm not even opposed to even continuing budget until maybe next Wednesday before council meeting. Why couldn't you? Because you have till June 1st. Well, that's not June 1st, so I don't want to hear I can't. So I don't want to hear I can't. What I want to hear is that council members are getting their concerns addressed when it comes to this budget. So that's my concern, and I would think, so what's the meeting, the 24th? The next meeting is the 24th.
I'd like to point out, there is an incredible amount of work that needs to be done on staff's part to get this document for the state done and ready to be submitted, and making sure it's accurate. We are down 2 people in budget, and so I've already been working them long hours and every weekend just about, so I would beg the council to give us as much time as we can to get this done. That's all I'd ask, is that your help in getting us moving along so we can finish.
And I guess there is some frustration, just from what I'm feeling, is that, again, I think we're in a place where this might be somewhat of a staff-driven budget and not a council-driven budget. So I get really frustrated. And again, I know you've worked really hard, but it seems to be one of those things, I had to get up here and scream about police. And so this is the time where I want this council to be pretty vocal. And I mean, for instance, let's just even talk about this parking lot. I did see pictures of it, and it's extremely concerning. Have you seen those pictures?
Where's the money going to come from? I think,
Madam
I,
Mayor? Well,
I think
first
for
of all,
every
wait a minute.
dollar that someone wants to throw in, they need to find another place for
Okay,
it
so
at
first of
this
all,
point.
I mean, even looking at some of the things, I'm concerned about putting 2 restrooms on the bottom floor that are coming out of room tax dollars. Now, we've gone this long without those restrooms, and there's certain other concerns that I've heard from this council. So you guys, at this point, everyone's got to speak up. And we can all sit here all day, and then that way we'll give them time to get this budget done. But I want to make sure everyone gets what they want. I don't want to hear at the last hour, people are coming to me and concerned about their neighborhoods and their wards that aren't being taken care of. So I'm just being really blunt, because this is the time to do it. We don't get that much more of a chance.
Madam Mayor, for the record.
Madam Mayor, maybe I jump in.
Hold on one second. I'm going to have City Manager Newby.
Just for the record, Saber Newby, thank you. And I do appreciate the kind words that you had for staff. They have been working very hard, and I understand, you know, this is a very tight budget, and certainly many more needs than we have money for. So my hope is that we can get this done today, and staff is here, I'm here. I think we can facilitate this getting done, and I'm confident that we can make it happen.
Okay, great. I love to hear that. I want to hear about how we can instead of we can't. So thank you. Super appreciated. All right, I'm going to start with you, Councilwoman Dewar. Take it away.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I just have a few, one largish and a couple smallish recommendations I'd like to make. I don't believe, I've checked this out for a couple weeks, I don't believe it's taking away from anything we've done. So I'll just bucket it. The first topic I have is room tax. You just mentioned it, like you're reading my mind. We have $200,000 in room tax budgeted for bathrooms on the first floor. I know staff have been talking about it for quite a while. I also know that we have been living with it for a very long time, since the city moved into City Hall. And so one of my thoughts is I had sent all of you a picture of the parking lot that I've been dealing with. It is at Jack Ty Park. It is primarily in the baseball area, but the entire parking lot is poor. I just sent you one picture. I could have sent you 15. I've been out taking them for 6 months. What I'd like to think about or recommend is that we use that $200,000 to get a start on fixing the most severe sections of this parking lot, which are giant holes that children are falling in, tripping on. I think it's very unsafe, and it's all come to a head now that people are going to the park. So that would be my first recommendation, and then if room tax comes in higher, we can always, you know, add back in bathrooms, you know, if room tax comes in higher. The second item on room tax is that I have been asking for the last couple meetings to consider taking $50,000 out of the ending fund balance in the room tax. Right now, we have $126,000. And I would recommend taking $50,000 of that, leaving $10,000 in the parks, or excuse me, I guess it would be Alexa's sales budget, to do a match for Bicentennial Park. The Rotary Club wants to continue it. $5,000 for the Burning Man contribution, although EDON has offered to pay half of that. And then the $10,000 to maintain our art, which there seems to be no budget for that whatsoever, and we can't take it from room tax. Or I guess there's been a conversation about that. And then finally, the rest of the 50, about 37, to go to art commission projects. So just to summarize, that's room tax, and I'm recommending $200,000 to this very difficult parking lot, not doing the whole thing, just graveling it and fixing the holes, and then $50,000 to arts. And I have 2 more sections to talk about. Should I continue on, Madam Mayor?
Yeah, hold on one second. I just want to ask you, I have not seen that parking lot, but I am hearing a lot of chatter about it. Is the rest of the parking lot, how is the rest of the parking lot?
It's very poor. I mean, like I said, I have taken probably 20 pictures of different holes, potholes. My recommendation would be to just simply gravel it. We're not even talking about paving it. The Public Works Department gave me an estimate of about $550,000 to do that. We can't afford that. That's $500,000. I got another bid that was closer to $400,000. I'm recommending just $200,000 to get the potholes filled and sections leveled out so that it's safe.
All right, thank you so much. Go ahead. That was the only question I had for you.
Okay. All right, the next thing I would like to recommend, after we fund the discussion that's already happened about the residential construction tax, the items that have already been budgeted, the Barbara Bennett Park, the Mary Gojek Park, there's still $350,000 left in the residential construction tax for District 5. That is a district that's shared by Ward 1 and Ward 2. I would like to recommend $100,000 of that to go to finish off Virginia Lake Path, which is just 400 feet of a path that has remained unfinished. Virginia Lake is the third most visited park of 86. The path just ends, and then it begins 400 feet later. So I'd like to get that done. The bridge right there is not ADA compliant. It only needs a little bit of refurbishing. And then from the RCT District 5 again, the new items in Robin Hood Park, I'm recommending $75,000. So that would actually, the total price, CDBG that we already approved, and this would add up to about $150,000. That's about what a dog park costs, and that's what I think we need to invest in our park in our most densely populated area of Reno. And then I have a third thing. So, shall I go on?
Don't push your luck. No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, the money's there. It's in the fund. No one else can use it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Lastly, there's two last things. In the residential construction tax in District 2, Madam Mayor, you recently appointed me to the Animal Services Advisory Board. They're still getting formulated, but one of the issues we've talked a lot about is building a dog park in downtown Reno. And we also talked about that we didn't want to pay for all of that, that we wanted to encourage contributions from people that would use the park, just like we did the one and only dog park in Reno now at Virginia Lake. It is in Councilwoman Jardin's ward. I noticed that there's about $325,000 left in her, District 2 RCT, not her. I'm recommending $60,000 or $70,000. It would be a challenge grant. The community would have to come up with the rest. I think it would be yet one more enhancement. We could either pay for it under RCT or $2 surcharge potentially, because I know that the only question I had was whether they can only go to the bowling, the event, and the ballroom, or if it was for all of downtown infrastructure for tourism. So, and that's really it. I hope someday to paint the City Hall garage, but I think that'll come as part of the repairs to the garage eventually. So there's just those items. Okay. And none of them is taking away. We're using fund balances that are there.
Okay, I'm going to have Manager Newby respond.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'd like Mr. Chisel to chime in on the RCT. Let's take those first. I believe, I've been told anyway, that RCT can be allocated throughout the year and does not necessarily have to be a part of this this budget, so we can save that and other requests for RCT to a different discussion. Is that correct, Mr. Chisel?
Robert Chisel, that is correct. Actually, we can, anytime during the year, and as the council sees, we frequently come back with budget adjustments during the year. We can always adjust the budget depending on, as projects come up, if there is a source of funding such as residential construction tax. So yes, we can always come back for those RCT monies.
Okay, I mean, I'm fine with that as long as we do it in the near future, because in Reno, the construction season is now, and this is when people, need these, either repairs or new things. So.
And Robert Chisel again, I'd probably look to our Parks Department to see what capacity they have to prioritize the projects. So, you know, funding is one part of it. The actual resources to design and build the projects is another, so I would look to parks.
And is Parks there?
For the record, Jeff Mann, Parks, Recreation, Community Services. As it stands right now, we're going to carry over probably half of this year's projects into the beginning of next fiscal year because of lack of staff time to adequately plan the projects, plus adding another, 8 to 12 projects that we have on schedule already, plus any new additional projects. I mean, it will be 2018 late summer before we get to any new projects. We have a couple of large projects coming up that have been carried forward. Somerset West will be starting. Trails at Sierra Vista Park will be starting. We'll be taking over maintenance at Cyan Park starting next year. We've got about half of this year's 400K projects still to do, and then all of next year's 400K projects, plus a couple of other RCT projects that you've already mentioned. So staff time is a challenge for us.
Madam Mayor?
Go right ahead.
As the liaison to the Parks Commission, I would like to bucket that and maybe bring it out. I don't know if it's easier to do it before the break or maybe our first meeting after the break to have a bigger discussion about RCT. I see some needs, not the least of which is if we're going to building enterprise where a lot of this RCT is generated from, I see a need in there for a parks planner being funded out of there, as a higher priority than the code enforcement officer and the motels, but I'm waiting to see what that motel project is. So I see some front-end loading assistance, staffing, and also a plan, because we work very well in bringing on new parks when we have a big planned community coming in, but these urban parks were really not set up well to identify what the new park needs are, and then the challenges are greater on land. We're doing the dog park in downtown because we have that lid, but I think that we need a bigger parks planning, making sure we have the resources set up to use RCT in this growing, economy where we're seeing more infill development. So I'd like to just bucket all this RCT stuff until after the break is somewhat suggested.
And for the record, Jeff Mann, as a response to that, I would love to have a park planner. It would free up a lot of my time. But when it comes to actually doing projects, they're public works engineering projects. So we compete with engineering staff time for building projects, street projects, sewer projects, not to mention all the flood projects. So if any one position would help us plan and build parks quicker, it would be another engineer.
Okay.
Even though that doesn't work for me.
Well, I really appreciate this conversation, and two of the projects are pretty straightforward, paving, and two are, in fact, new parks, the dog park and a renovation of Robin Hood. So I totally hear what people are saying. I would be fine with that. I just want to keep it on the list and keep it moving forward, however we can get that done. Okay, so we approved the CDBG for the Robin Hood. I would like the rest of the money, but, I'm going to probably work with the neighborhood, as Councilwoman Beckus discussed, on a park she was interested in to get the needs out. But I agree that, someone's got to buy that equipment or redo the court or buy the picnic tables. So. And then back to Manager Newby on the other two. One is the Jack Tie parking lot paving from room tax, and the other was the $50,000 out of room tax for arts programming.
So is that something I would ask Manager Newby? Is that something, and I don't know how the council wants to do this, even looking at that $200,000 that we're going to go to the restrooms, maybe go to that?
Saber Newby for the
Jack
record. The $200,000 for the bathrooms, I understand, has been a long-standing request, but it is certainly something that we could delay. It is not absolutely necessary to be done at this point. And what we can possibly do is look at at delaying that and reallocating those room tax funds toward other projects, whatever the council's pleasure is. Should room tax perform better than we expect over the year, then we can come back and reevaluate that later in the year for other projects, perhaps redoing, adding on the bathrooms again or something else. And feel free, I'm sorry, to have
my fault.
Director Chisel chime in with his thoughts if he
No,
has any.
you hit it 100%. So.
No, and I also know where you were going, and I appreciate it immensely because you've worked really hard on the security measures of down here, and I think that was really your goal.
Yeah,
So-
the bathrooms were part
Right.
of the overall security that had been presented to council as,
Right.
as we did upgrades, the security system, the cameras, the other things. It was to provide bathrooms other than on the second floor that are commonly used and restrict access to the elevators. But
Yeah, so I see why you
yeah.
did it. So, and this becomes a game where it's super tricky, and we all know this. How do you decide what's more important than others, right? So, to Jenny, it might be parks. To Naomi, it could be trees, right? So, I don't want anyone thinking that you're not as important as the next council member. But just quick question on that. Could that money come out of the building enterprise fund for bathrooms?
No, because the bathrooms would probably actually be more general fund. There'd
Okay.
be, we allocate an indirect cost to the building enterprise fund for use of the chambers, for manager and everything else. So unless there's a direct 100% nexus, it's really,
Okay. So
not-
that's how you
yeah.
justify the
The sixth
building on the
floor.
6th floor?
Yeah,
Okay.
because everyone in the 6th floor is going to be building enterprise people and not.
Okay, I
us.
gotcha. I just
Yeah.
wanted to
Here,
get
can
some
I?
clarification. Hold on one second. Vice Mayor Jordan.
Thank you very much. So my question is this: is the appetite of the council to redirect the 200,000 that was going to go towards first floor bathrooms to improvements at the baseball parking lot? That kind of only gets us part of the way. So do we continue to use additional room tax dollars to finish the project? Because I understood Ms. Dewar to say it was about 400,000.
Right, and if I may, I did have a thought on that. One thought, and wasn't going to bring it up now because we're not discussing this now, but we do have the neighborhood grant from the Blight Fund. I thought I could apply for that, some of that. We have $250,000 for neighborhood grants. I might apply for 50,000 or something like, something in that order. We also have, potential use of CDBG that we get to talk about later. So I don't want to bring any of that up. I just thought I would get one piece of this and see what else I can patch together with donations and
Okay,
other funds.
thank you.
All right, Councilman Bobsey.
Okay.
Sorry, and I'll call on you right after Councilman Bobsey. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And believe me, I know the parking lot well. I am sure money that I've spent on my alignment on my vehicle is because of the condition of that parking lot. But nonetheless, the questions that I have, I think, keep coming because we're now talking about sequencing and the possibility of if there's a redirect, we still have the ability if room tax comes in above to revisit the bathrooms issue, which I am nervous about because we have been making such concerted forward momentum on upgrades to our facility that I think really speaks to City Hall's sort of welcoming nature to all of our citizens. I heard Mr. Mann kind of talk about not necessarily the backlog, but sort of, the air traffic control aspect of we have all of these major improvements that are rolling and some really good ones that are in the works that we're going to be cutting the ribbon on pretty soon. And my concern is if we were to make this change, are we just parking money that's in line that's going to be coming later? I mean, I'm uncomfortable parking the money and then also jumping this project ahead of other things that are already in the queue. So I guess I need to hear from, and I don't know if it's probably Mr. Mann. Jeff, I might have to have you come back up here about if we were to do this, when would we see this happen? The other part of this is that I'm hearing, okay, well, we're not going to do all of it, but for 200,000, we can make a lot of impact, and I'm sure that we can, but I'm also, that smacks a little bit of, wait a minute, have we actually engineered this? Do we know what exactly this is going to give us if we do spend a little bit of money on the problem rather than the full amount? So those are the questions that I have about this kind of a change this late in the game.
For the record, Charla Honey. Well, we have currently about $86 million in projects that are underway or under construction, design, so on and so forth, in capital projects. Another $26 million that are sitting in the hopper, waiting for staff or for other decisions that need to be made. So any projects that get approved in this process right now typically start planning in fall and design over winter, and then construction in the upcoming year is our typical excuse me, process for planning projects. Now, as Jeff mentioned, there were projects from last year that we haven't even started on. A lot of the projects that come out of the CMP in parks and both building maintenance are smaller dollar amounts, but very important projects, and they require architects or engineering staff to design, bid, build those projects. So they get designed as we can get them done and scheduled based on what kind of work they are.
So what I'm hearing is, not only do we have to move the money, but we'd have to, if we wanted to see results this year, we'd have to bump the priority as well.
Correct.
So this is Naomi. I guess I'll just say one thing in response. This project has been deferred for 8 years to the point that we can no longer just repave the project. The thing is degraded, and that's why it requires a full rebuild. So in discussing this with the Public Works Department, not Charla, but John Fransberg, we had come up with a plan of simply graveling this. It's very similar to filling the potholes on the roads. That's what we have, is we have potholes that have gotten gigantic over this winter. So whether you want to think about it as flood response or pothole repair, and the other idea is we can just orange cone them off. It's just that we'll have about 20 areas. And I'm, it's whatever the council wants to do. I have heard about this fairly endlessly from the people that use that park. It's not just baseball. It is the soccer as well, because they all have to share. So I understand. Believe me, I understand. It's just that it's one of those projects that's been deferred to the point that it's no longer fixable in a normal way. We can't repave.
And
so my thought was just gravel. So there you go.
Thank you. And I guess my suggestion would be, because it has been deferred for so long and the potholes are seriously like craters in the earth now, that the public, at least with the clear understanding of not bumping any of the other priorities, not kind of moving anything out of the way, but to be able to give our community members who are taking their kids to baseball and soccer that it is in the pipeline of getting repaired. And when is that? I think that's what everyone is yearning for, is just kind of all right, it may not be in there in the next 12 months. It's not going to hit this baseball cycle, unfortunately, but is it going to be in the next go around? I think that's what the community wants to hear from us, is that 7 years has been 7 years long enough, and are we making it a priority?
Madam Mayor, may I?
Go right ahead, Councilwoman Breckus.
I'm agnostic on the room tax and the bathrooms and so on. Frankly, I didn't know that it was in the budget. But I will say one thing following up on this parking lot condition, and I don't know, maybe there's a quick fix of sending the pothole crew to go pothole it, and that's just operational, is I heard Mr. J say that he's out there with Q&D right now, or someone is, looking to move that NV Energy power line. That implies that there's a look at adding more fields where we have an agreement with a group that's helping us, build a pool. And if this pothole filling, this parking lot is advancing that goal without having a full discussion at this table about what we're doing with that group in the pool, which I understand is coming forward very soon, then I will object to it. The pool, if we want a pool in our future, it has to be at that location. I know there's people who want fields there, but let's discuss that issue and not have this parking lot be driving that decision that we haven't made. So I just want to call that. I'd also mention, when I hear someone say trails, we need to do trails. The word trails to me equates to transportation. And just like we went in for a federal fund for Transportation Alternatives Program for the Idlewild Trail, we need to be looking at transportation dollars to make dollars go the furthest. And that's what I think about transportation. And if someone wants a $5,000 to a nonprofit, I think that they need to look into the discretionary funds that have been, added back up under the enhancements.
And I'll just respond, this is not a hidden agenda related to soccer. We have an agreement with a pool group that goes to mid-July, and that is not part of this. I believe Mr. J just came to support the request of baseball. Whatever he said, ancillary to that is whatever he said, but that is not where this is coming from. This is, it's the worst section is over by the baseball.
Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, council members, for the record, Bill Thomas, Assistant City Manager. Maybe to help get through this challenging question and clarify expectations is with the 200,000 that would be, from the discussion we're having here, moved from the bathrooms to the Jack-Tie parking lot, we would be doing a repair project and not a project that would be necessarily in the queue with the other design projects, because the design project is going to be lengthier and much more expensive, because there you're talking about fixing drainage problems, repaving everything, designing it to current codes. That will be someday needed, probably sooner rather than later, but clearly the resources aren't here to do that. So the suggestion of staff would be that you understand this is a repair project, and that the scope of the project would be within that 200,000, and that the intent would be for it to be done this fiscal year.
All right. All right. Councilmember McKenzie, you've been so quiet over there.
Well, thank you,
So
Madam Mayor.
impressed.
And with the idea that it's a repair project and doing it as a doing potholing, was there any planning needed to go in and dig those potholes out a little bit and then compact gravel into it, DG or something to repair those potholes and not gravel the whole parking lot, just concentrate to repair on those bad spots?
For the record, John Flansburgh, Director of Public Works. To Councilmember McKenzie's question, we would go in there with maintenance forces and do some of the initial work to make sure the foundation is good for those large pothole areas. We would probably go in with maybe some blade laid asphalt or something to tighten the surface, and then probably some sort of chip seal or something over the entire area, followed by possibly a slurry seal, just to get a good surface back there that's smooth, people aren't going to trip over, not going to have the big depressions in that parking lot. To do that parking lot correct, we need to go in with some drainage. It's very flat, and it's in a section of town that doesn't have a lot of drainage nearby. So we have to design the drainage. I think the difference between the cost that Public Works gave Councilmember Doer and what she received from a contractor was probably the difference between what the drainage would cost. And so to do it right, that's what we'd have to do. But when I say do it right, I mean there's different levels of right, and right now it needs to be smoothed out, made well, and make drivable, and for people to be able to walk and not trip.
And do you see a lot of engineering needing to go into that, or is it more?
There's not much engineering that needs to go into this. It's going to be taking what we have, matching the edges that are somewhat in decent shape that we can match to, and then putting a new surface on.
Okay, because when we were talking about doing a repair on it, I didn't see us having to put a whole exorbitant amount of engineering hours into it. My point on the budget is something that I asked Mr. Chisel if we could see if we could find some funding for several months before we had our first meeting on this. And at that time, he was more concerned with coming up money for the downtown business improvement district, which, by the way, that's $500,000 that we're putting into downtown that can't be used other places. And while I don't object to doing improvements to downtown, when we're looking at where we've got shortages other places, that's 500,000, 187 and a half of it out of room tax that could have been used to contribute to the arts or other things. And general fund money, the remainder of it, general fund money, and that we're donating to a nonprofit to form a nonprofit downtown for the downtown improvement. And this is a partnership that we hope is going to work for us and improve our downtown in the future. And we have a partnership that we haven't given any funding to for a number of years that has asked if we can assist them in the form of tip, and that partnership has given us benefit for both our police and fire for a number of years now, and at no cost to the city. And to ask that we contribute something to a partner that's truly benefiting our community and two of our public safety departments, I don't believe is a big ask, and I don't believe that it's something that, well, I'm more than happy to give them money out of my contribution funds. I don't think that it's something that we should be going to our discretionary funds for. But we do have some council funds that are spent on partnerships that don't bring so much to us or that tend to damage us many times. And one of those areas is EDON, who we currently give $100,000 to, and we've got the county contributes $41,000 to them, and the city of Sparks is looking at their contribution level to them as well. And I don't see why we can continue to contribute at that level to an agency that doesn't want to be our partner. They want to try to lead us around by the nose. So I would ask that we take $50,000 out of that council budget that is currently budgeted there to contribute to EDON and move half of it to the police and half of it to the fire, and let the police and fire contribute to the TIP organization, contribute through the police and fire to the TIP organization for the benefit that they provide those two departments. And it's not going to cost anything in the budget. It's not asking for us to change our ending fund balance. It's not asking for us to do anything. It's just to truly pay for a partnership that benefits our community, just like we hope this $500,000 investment into the downtown business improvement district is going to contribute back to our community. And so that's my pitch for a change in the budget, and it'd just be a adjustment from council budget of $50,000 and move it 25 to the police, 25 to fire, and so we can contribute to TIP.
All right. Vice Mayor Jordan.
Thank you. We'll let, however, the vote goes on some of the items with regards to EDON, but I think it is important to note that this community and this council made the revitalization of downtown a priority, and Robert and our staff did that. So I appreciate the budget in which you brought forward.
All right. Councilwoman Breckus.
I just want to make 2 points is we make the rules, we have to follow them, and we don't allow anyone to put gravel in parking lots in the private sector. It's not an approved standard, and so we can't put gravel there, and certainly we should not be encouraging it. We're a region teetering on air quality compliance. We have some tough things ahead of us on that, and we need to be very careful, but I understand that that's not part of the ingredient. The two things, I understand our situation. The two things that I see very much missing are a local economic development strategy for our small business districts and how and when we will use incentives. Our policy right now is anyone who comes in, we'll consider it. And I think we need some guidelines and strategies, and I'm hearing so much from our small business districts that they need help and they want some consideration. And our consultants have told us to do a plan for that. It's not in the budget. I've looked into the EDON economic development budget, and that's where I would like that money to come out of. If there's a desire, I think to me that's a closer nexus than funding TIP. Maybe TIP is pulled out of that $550,000 for the downtown business district because it probably does help downtown business, downtown activities. So that's one thing I see. And then I also feel that we really need to be much more strategic in our park planning functions, and I don't think we have a parks facilities plan for that. So I'm still on a planning kick. And I see 2 initiatives that need to get us there, but I'm not going to, make any demands because, one, I'm concerned about the levels to do these planning efforts, but I do think there's the capacity to do some economic development planning that is not getting done right now because if we don't guide what we want done with economic development, others are doing it for us, and we have staff resources for that, and sometimes I wonder how much direction they're getting.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Dewar.
Yes.
Hi. Would you like to weigh in?
Well, I mean, at this point, I think that Councilman McKenzie, this is back on the parking lot and also in response to Councilman Breakfast's point about traveling and dust. I think we're talking about doing a sustainable repair. And I think Mr. Flansburgh talked about sealing on top of the repair, so I don't think he's planning to just put gravel. I think he's planning to fill the holes in a proper manner. However, I do want to say this, and this may surprise people. I am very much not interested in upsetting the apple cart, and I have to advocate for the things that I think are important. I have to share that with the council. I have brought these things up at every budget meeting. It's not like this was today's big chance. It's just I don't think that it was being heard, or maybe there wasn't considered to be room. But, I think that I would like to continue working on getting the potholes filled in Jack Tie. I am very content with, on the RCT, working with the Parks Department to see if they can, do the last 400 feet of Virginia Lake and, going forward. So, most people know I'm not here to have a conflict or a fight. I've looked for money that I thought was reasonable, that was in, remainder fund balances. I understand the issue about planning for new parks, especially like the dog park. I'm trying to do bigger picture things. It's not even in my ward, so, I want to support others, and I've heard the mayor and Councilman Jardim both express interest in that on the lid. So, it's all I have to say. Whatever the council wants to do, I'm going to be fine with it. I just want to let all my colleagues know that, and I'm going to continue to work on the project, advocate for them, look for private donations if people aren't, interested in moving any of these forward. If there is some appetite, all to the good. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from some of the others that haven't spoken yet.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman Dewar. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you looking out for other wards as well. You're always very helpful and willing to jump in, so I appreciate that. But I do want to help you get there, and I think this council, I hope you were listening clearly, because I think what she is asking for is important, and I would like to help you get there, and I would hope other council members would support that.
Well,
So what can we do
if
to
that is
to get
all
there?
the changes, I'd ask, is that all the changes council would like to see? And maybe we could go through, what I have are, to summarize the residential construction tax, we can address those after the budget, but was to move 200,000 from the bathrooms to Jack Tie Park. And council would have to, I'd look to council to give direction for that. $50,000 for Bicentennial Park from fund balance of room tax. And again, I would look to council to give direction. The other requested items were $50,000 from EDON to police and fire to fund the tip. There was also a proposal to take $50,000 from EDON for local economic development. There was also a desire for a parks planner, and there was also a discussion of taking dollars from the DMO for the tip. So those are the items that I heard from council, and if I missed anything, please let me know, and maybe we can get direction, staff could get direction on those items.
I'm going to speak up, Councilman Stewart here. The one thing I think you missed from me is just, it wasn't $10,000 for Bicentennial Park. It was all part of a $50,000 ad for arts. I was just laying out what it was for.
Okay,
So it's just
$50,000 for arts. Okay, not the park, just $50,000 for arts. Okay, thank you.
All right, go ahead, Councilman Papazian.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So clarity on the 50,000 for arts. As I understand it, a large part of that is bicentennial, and I certainly am familiar with the project and, want to try to find a way to support that effort. But what makes me a little nervous is the fund ending balance piece. And so I guess I need to hear again, how much of this is room tax? How much of this is fund ending balance? I'm just going to say it.
This was all room tax.
I'm incredibly hesitant to deviate from staff recommendation on fund ending balance.
Yeah, I hear you. And so this was, the 50 would come out of the 126,000 that they said we had as an ending fund balance, and I would be very willing to hold off. Room tax comes in month over month, every month. And some months are high, some months are low. I've talked to Mr. Chisel about this. So I would be very willing to, wait on the majority of the expenditure, maybe just use 5,000 in the summer and wait on the rest of it until we know where we are with the fund balance. But I would like, it known that that's appropriate use. It's been lined out, and there we are.
If I could.
So the other 10,000 was just maintenance of our existing art.
If I could jump in here, Saber Newby for the record. Part of the direction that I heard that wasn't talked about by Mr. Chisel just now was also revisiting the room tax partly through the year as we know more about its performance. And I think at that time we really could talk more about how it has performed, the $50,000, and how that could be allocated once we know more. As I understand it, there are now positions, people that are paid out of the room tax, so there is a need to keep some ending fund balance there to make those checks cash. So.
And I agree with that. I agree with that.
And what I put up on the screen was something I believe Council Member Dewar may have. It's just kind of an outline of the, well, maybe we could zoom out a little so it gets the whole thing, of the room tax, a little more. And there we go. We believe the beginning fund balance at the end of this year will be at $750,000. We're estimating room tax receipts at 2.2. Now, room tax, as you all know, has gone up quite a bit in the last couple of years, partly because room rates have gone up. We don't know how much elasticity there is in there, and we don't see a lot of nor room heads and beds, so to speak, coming, but we do see room rates going up. So that's why where the $2.9 million of resources. This is outlining kind of a high level of what the dollars are being projected to be spent in, and that leaves an ending fund balance of 126. And as Councilmember Dewar said, the money comes in monthly, and it's about 45 days after the close of the month. So we're not really getting June 2018's revenue in until August of 2018. So we have to do what we call aggressive cash management to make sure the fund balance does not get under zero.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I'm not prepared to go deeper into this budget and call out this park or that park, and I'll tell you why. Is one of the questions through one of our earlier hearings is, what is our ordinance, is what is our split of room tax parks to arts? And I think if we are going to go into this budget area, the room tax, that should be the starting point. And some people can make a case for more to arts, some can make more to parks, then within that, what parks? Also, are we going to go with more staff, or, how are we trending? I think we should just have a separate discussion just on that before we pull out, something for Bicentennial Park and the, so let's hold as
Well, and again,
Mr.
yeah, as
Newby said.
the manager said, we can revisit once we get more information and the numbers. I'd like to be positive and think numbers are going to come in a lot higher because we're going to have a lot more visitors. But until we have it, I can't say for certain.
I'm fine with that, as long as we, let's say, after the first quarter, we know we have this conversation again around September.
Okay. All right, thank you, Councilwoman Dewar. Are you done?
Madam Mayor,
Okay, thanks. Go ahead. Mr. Bill Thomas.
if I might beg the indulgence of the mayor and the council, Manager Newby inherited this budget, which the staff put together over a long period of time. And this is not a lecture, but just a reminder. This budget, which didn't have any major additional revenue resources, and I think all the council should congratulate themselves on this, we were able to add 6 police officers to the city. And we did so by being very conservative in terms of our ending fund balance. So this is the most difficult part, which is there are so many needs that need to happen, right? There's so many things that we could spend this money on that are necessary, but I just wanted to remind everybody and the public that there is a big accomplishment out of this budget, which is the addition of those 6 police officers without major new funding sources. So that was the only thing I wanted to bring to the table. The hard part is when we get to the finishing touches on a budget like this and the pieces, but the idea was to be very conservative on the ending fund, and anything you do related to spending any fund money obviously makes that part of the budget a little scary, which is what's your safety net? What are the parts in case you're wrong on your revenues that you have to cover those? So that's the only 2 cents I wanted to add, and I appreciate you.
And
allowing me to say
I
that.
appreciate that feedback, and especially with the police officers, because I think that it was so critical. And I'll continue to say it, and I believe it, and I believe this council believes it, is that a safe city is a prosperous city. And now more than ever, our police department is still at very low levels. And how long has it been since they've even had a new police department, a new police station? And how long hasn't it?
50 years.
50 years? Well, I need to commend them because they put, the paint that they put on there it made it look really nice. So anyway, so police were incredibly important to this council. And I think for a while, that will probably be the same thing that you're going to hear over and over again, probably even in the next budget, because our population is continuing to grow. So I guess part of my message is that we have to continue to really focus on keeping our city safe. And so I want to make sure that probably more budgets to come. That'll be what I'll sound like as a broken record. So I appreciate you working so hard with the council to get us there, because I know it wasn't easy. And again, everyone's got their priorities, so it's really hard to decipher why is one better than the other. It's not. It's, to some people, parks might be the only thing that are important to them, and arts might be something that's important to everyone else. And so it's really hard to pick and choose. And again, I really appreciate all your effort and how long that, the time and energy you guys take to do it. And of course, our new city manager, she did inherit this, but she's still sitting here, which is miraculous. So we haven't scared her off yet. But so I do want to say thank you very much for listening to us about the police officers. I think that has been incredibly important. So anyway.
And
I'll just chime in too, if I may, Madam Mayor.
Go right
My understanding is I would like to defer the conversation on the residential construction tax for about, to midsummer, about a month and a half. We'll have more revenues come in. The last revenue projection we had was back in April, so we'll have more. And on the room tax, I'd like to defer that to either the last meeting in September or the first meeting in October, when we've had the first quarter of the, of the biennium or the new annual budget. and I would like to consider the 200,000. And it may come in less, if we're patching. So that would be my recommendation on everything I've requested.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
All right. So I have a motion from Councilwoman Dewar. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go
Madam-
ahead, Councilman Delgado.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, so I pushed the button to speak. Is this,
Oh, sorry, I can't see it up there.
is this related to the approval of the overall budget? Is this what we're doing now?
No, I think this is for 200,000, Councilwoman Dewar.
Maybe I can recap, just to make sure it's 200,000, reallocate the 200,000 from the bathrooms to the Jack Ty Park. Revisit $50,000 for arts in the September-October timeframe from room tax. And defer the residential construction tax for the summer meetings of July.
Okay.
Right.
All right, thank
So,
you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank-
So
I'm
go ahead,
fine
go
with
right
taking that motion. I wasn't sure if that was the overall approval for the overall budget. So.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right.
All right, and then the other items, any direction from council on those items? That was the money from EDON to police and fire, the money from EDON to local government, economic development, the parks planner, and money from DMO to TIP.
All right.
I-
So I'm going to start with Councilman Breckus.
I introduced the Parks Planner concept. I think it's premature, having heard from Mr. Mann. I also think it's premature until we have the discussion on the motel interdiction program. I'm concerned about tapping the building enterprise fund for too many positions until, because I think there does need to be a justification about what they're doing there. So that's a concern there, but I think it's something to keep on our front burner when we have these parks discussions about the RCT.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. All right, Councilman Delgado.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Been thinking about this quite a bit, and I think it comes back to a statement I made in the last budget, and that's always thinking about the core services that we provide in the city of Reno. And then listening to Councilman McKenzie and also yourself testify on behalf of TIP and the work that they do, and having both chiefs come forward and speak to the power that they've had in terms of building relationships with TIP and how they consistently leverage that resource at all these different unfortunate accidents and so forth. I think that's a huge value in terms of return on investment that provides leverage to our current departments. And again, as looking back in terms of what our budget does for us as a community and the core services that we want to provide, that's something that's always at the forefront. Looking at what we currently budget for and understanding our budget is tight, unfortunately, we'll look at possibly memberships. And I say that with respect also to what was pointed out earlier with Washoe County, the largest jurisdiction in Northern Nevada, which provides 41,000 towards their membership towards EDON. And they provide 41,000, we provide 100,000. City of Sparks, spoken to a few of their council members, are looking at reducing their fees to 35,000 from 100,000. If we, as a tight budget here, are looking at how do we continue to support our staff, our departments with core services, and again, hearing testimony from both chiefs saying that they utilize TIP as a major one, I can't see how we wouldn't be able to think about utilizing or providing funding towards TIP, understanding that this may be a one-time contribution, that it's not a line item, but again, I wouldn't be able to go home and say that we weren't supporting SWORD services or even our chiefs that do so much work and seeing how we can reduce our membership fees from other entities that are, of course, very supportive of providing jobs and economic development and so forth. But wanted to open up that conversation and very much supporting Councilman McKenzie with the reduction of membership towards the support of TIP this fiscal coming year.
All right, thank you very much. Vice Mayor Jordan.
Thank you very much. And I too see the value in that, in the great work that they do and the support they give to both police and fire. Maybe the suggestion is that each council member give 5,000 of their discretionary funds to go towards that. I'm a little concerned about reducing our contribution to EDON. If we want them to do something differently, then let's have that conversation with them. But this feels a little bit like we're punishing them. And I want to support the tip for sure, but I also want to keep our partnership with EDON and our collaboration and the things that we want them to do for us intact and moving in a positive direction forward. So I feel like we can move in a direction that does both. So maybe each council member could give up 5,000 of their discretionary funds to help with the tip. And we continue to have conversations with EDON about things, not that they did anything wrong, but maybe we want them to do something different. And those are candid conversations that we should be having with them.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman Jordan. Mr. Paul McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I would disagree that we haven't talked to EDON about we would like to see a change in direction. I think that every time they come and give a presentation, we have the discussion about the level of wages that they're of jobs that they're bringing in here and the amount of tax incentives that are being received by those companies to bring those lower than standard level jobs into the community. And it wasn't until EDON went to the press and started making statements about our efforts to address their housing issue that they had created that that it became such an obvious fact that regardless of what we say to them, they're not going to partner with us, that they want to drive the boat and they want to have the press conferences about the companies they bring. They don't want to look at the results that they receive within the community for true economic development. So I would disagree that we haven't had this conversation with them and that they haven't reacted to it and responded to it. And we have no control over the incentives that they give out. Those are based upon deals that are made at the state level, and we don't even have a veto power. They send a letter notifying us that they've granted them to the mayor. I don't think they send them to each individual council person. They send them to the mayor, and that they've granted incentives and that they're bringing another great company. They don't even give a breakdown of the substandard wages that the employers are going to be paying when they give those incentives. So I would disagree that we haven't asked them to change their direction and bring up the level of wages and reduce the incentives that they're given. I know that in my ward alone, the tax revenue that we lose because of the incentives that EDON has lobbied for companies to come into our community, we wouldn't be having the conversations we're having now about the shortages of money we have.
All right, Councilmember McKenzie, I know you're not going to like this. First of all, I'm going to say I think EDON offers a lot of value. I absolutely know TIP offers a lot of value. I think that was an excellent suggestion by Vice Mayor Jordan about each council member. All of you have said that TIP was a great initiative. I think it is very valuable to fire and police. And so it doesn't seem to me that they would have issues being supportive of TIP and donating some of their council funds. I am going to say, because I think she said it very well, when Michelle Obama said, when they go low, you go high. And I think, honestly, that they did say some things that were uncomfortable to this council. And at the same time, I think you do have to be careful that it doesn't come off retaliatory. And I think they do add some value. I understand your frustration. I get how you feel that way. I don't know how the rest of the council feels. However, I have seen the value that they also bring, because if they're not bringing companies here, they're not bringing jobs. So is it the chicken or the egg, or what, figuring out. So just don't bring companies here. I don't know. But I also think we need to be partners with all the entities in the region. And you might not agree with some of the things that certain members or certain other organizations believe in. I know that we've had issues, I know this council, with the chamber and some of the things that they do. But at the end of the day, I think this council always looks to work with all the different partners. So I would just say that I'm not in favor of reducing the EDON allocation. Go ahead, Councilman Delgado.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In response, I don't think we're punishing. I think it's a matter of revenue streams and us fighting over 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, and then trying to support our core services in our departments. I think you did a great job bringing forward and championing 6 new police officers. For us now to go back and ask for those departments to now cop up some of their funds to support TIPs that are already supporting them is somewhat, I don't see somewhat the fairness within our own department. We're simply reducing their membership fees, not taking away all of our membership fees. I think it's an opportunity for us to be able to possibly revisit our overall contribution in the next fiscal year. I think there's definitely opportunities to continue working with them. I won't give them all the credit. I think that wouldn't be fair either. I think this council's done a great job attracting jobs, attracting companies to Reno, in addition to GoEd. So I wouldn't take any of that credit away from yourself or any other council members to say that we're not part of that. But again, for me, it comes back to core services. Core services, supporting our departments, and Chief Cochran, Chief Soda came and spoke eloquently, in addition to yourself and Councilman McKenzie, about the work that TIP does and how you guys leverage those resources more often than we ever thought we would, unfortunately. And so to support them not as a line item, but this year as we try to support our other entities in terms of return on investment, rather than us going and hiring new people to help with those circumstances, that's something where I think is money well spent. We're not going to zero. We're going to a reduction in membership. So
I appreciate your comments. I just think if you look at what the cost would be for the city to put in an economic development arm to the magnitude of what EDON does, and now more than ever with all these companies coming in, I do see the value in that. And I also see your points, Councilman Delgado. I think they're very good as well.
Let's move this.
Madam Mayor?
Okay. Go ahead, Councilwoman Doer.
Yeah, this is really a tough one for me. I have to support both points of view, and that's why it's so difficult. I think EDON does a very good job. Like many partnerships, it's not perfect, and there's always an evolving, growing pain here. And so I really do value what they do. Could we all do better? Yes, and we could too, as a council, and me as an individual. And I also am very sensitive to the TIP issue. That's why I even brought it up early in this conversation, because I wanted to make sure it was part of the conversation. I am very willing to donate some of my council donation funds to TIP. I made some calls because I was so impressed with the passion that they brought at our last council meeting to find out what is their budget. Well, their budget is their total budget, as far as I've learned, is about $70,000 a year. Since they're volunteers, most of that budget goes to buying, supportive materials, maybe some room nights, that kind of thing, or care basket, those kind of things. But most of the work is done and contributed out of their heart. I know that in a number of our departments, from our attorney's office, we have victim advocates. I know that we have victim advocates in the police department. I know we have a chaplain in our fire department. So the TIPS is really, it's bringing another aspect to this entire care package. And I think it's super valuable. So again, I am willing to, go to the mat and give up a big chunk of my council donation funds, even though people know just a thing. I care a lot about trees, and that's usually the big donation, but in this case, I'd be willing to do it. But I also know that volunteer organizations can't depend on a city to do that. They have to do fundraising. Everyone I've been on a bunch of boards. We spend quite a bit of time doing fundraising. It's a tough aspect of being a nonprofit. So I would fully support keeping the EDON level to what it is. And if we want to reduce it in a going forward year, I would be willing to have the conversation with you, Dawn, about, even to Councilwoman Beckett's point about how we can support smaller businesses or do some incentives, and I think they're doing those kind of things. And then finally, I know last year they had their first ever and are coming up as their second ever arts conference, where they've made, just as we have identified 3 legs of our stool, with arts and culture being one of those legs, they put out last year a $20,000 handout brochure work effort to communicate where are the arts programs, how can you participate with the arts, and that was made available to our entire community, all visitors as well as locals. And so I do think right there, we're actually getting our money back in many ways. So this is very tough for me. I want to be supportive to the whole council, and I think we have a different, some divergent views, but that's where I'm kind of coming down is, if we want to reduce it, I think we should be having that conversation going forward, not right now. And I would be willing to contribute my funds. So yeah.
All right, thank you. City Manager Newby, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could offer some help in the way of trying to get to a resolution here. I've heard a couple of different options here. You did notice that in the budget changes, I had called an audible and increased the council donation funds to $30,000 from your last discussion, which is 25. So there are additional funds there, which are the same as last year, admittedly, should you want to do that. TIP, as I understand, I wasn't here for that discussion, but I understand it's something valuable. I have reached out to Mr. Chisel and senior management to also talk about possibly allocating what we can, although it wouldn't nearly come close to $50,000 out of services and supplies, perhaps from police and fire, but we would have to determine that as the year goes on and see what those expenditure levels are. But I can pledge to work on that and see if there's something available there. With respect to EDON, one of the things that I told you as I was standing there at that dais answering lots of questions was that I expected to make contact with lots of different folks in different organizations throughout this valley. And I have not yet met with EDON, but I certainly intend to. And to the greatest extent possible, I would like to help as much as I can, be that conduit and transmit the messages that I've heard today and work on a solution going forward with them. And that's my commitment to you.
Okay, great. Councilman Breckus.
Mr. McKenzie wanted to speak first, and if he's going to offer a motion, I'll be waiting for that.
Okay. Councilmember McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'm more than willing to give council funds to TIP, but I'm not willing to give $100,000 to EDON. So any budget that has $100,000 lined into it for EDON is a budget I'm going to vote against. So
okay, all right. Then I'm gonna actually ask Vice Mayor Jordan to make a motion then.
Thank
I think you take 2 separate motions.
Yeah, and I don't believe we need to take the motion on the whole of the budget. I believe we have chipped away at all the additional or individual items. So at this time, I will take a stab at 2 separate motions. The first motion is to retain EDON's membership at its current amount.
All right, so I have a motion. Do I have a second? I will second.
I'll second.
Okay, so, all right, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing that there are none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
So what do we have? 4-3. So motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The second motion I would like to propose is that each council member commit at a minimum $5,000 of their discretionary funds to go towards TIP, as they have identified today as a priority.
Great, thank you very much. So I have a motion from Vice Mayor Jordan. May I get a second?
I'd like discussion.
All right, go right ahead, Councilwoman Breckus.
Madam Mayor, I think at the last meeting, you discussed the discretionary funds and whether or not it was a good idea to give those to nonprofits. I've made a practice with the discretionary funds, and I'm going to emphasize that these are discretionary funds. And so if we have a motion where we all, direct that they go to a certain use, they cease to be discretionary funds. It's just like a logical argument. And I think this tip is great, but there's a lot of other nonprofits, and I've had a very difficult time going this nonprofit or that nonprofit. So I've made a practice with very few exceptions, and those exceptions are for advancement of city efforts, to not be giving funds to nonprofits. I am giving it to city departments to fill in what I consider enhancements to city needs. So I have a hard time, I'm not going to support that motion. If the motion would be something like, I want to back out $5,000 and of the discretionary funds and have that go to tip, that's a different way. But I don't feel that I want out of my discretionary funds to come to a nonprofit when I've been turning away so many other nonprofits and said that I'm giving money to city initiatives and city needs.
All right, thank you very much. Councilman Delgado.
Not somewhat the same lines. If we are going to use discretionary funds and state that now they're not really discretionary funds, it wouldn't really be up to the council member to decide that. I'm more than happy to give my money towards TIP, but then to take that option away from other council members that may not feel as passionate about me to not give up money to TIP wouldn't be fair to them. Again, that's up to the council member. That's why we fought hard to have discretionary funds. More than happy to support TIP through my discretionary funds if that's the case. But again, that should fall on an individual and not to preempt them on what they decide to do. So I wouldn't be supportive of that.
All right.
And this is Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with the discretion concept, and if we bind the discretion, I don't think it is discretionary. So I tend to agree with my colleagues. I am going to make the commitment, but I think that should be up to each person.
All right, thank you so much. All right, go ahead, Councilman Babazine.
And Madam Mayor, thank you. I seconded the motion to make the point, and I think the point's been made. We heard it earlier about the value of TIP. No one disagrees with that, and we all very much understand that. I think there was also reference made to the fact that we heard from our two chiefs at that public comment marathon that we had a number of weeks ago. But of course, it was posed to us as that was a better alternative for the funds that we spend on EDON. Of course, I'd hazard a guess that the two chiefs, when they provided their public comment, had no idea that they were making comments in support of TIP as something that would be an option in opposition to spending money on EDON. So here we are, full circle. We now understand that yes, there is a logical problem with making a motion that would take away or direct discretionary funds, thus taking away discretionary funds from individual council members. I too agree that I will be giving my money to support TIP in this next fiscal year. Maybe we don't need the motion, maybe we do, but at the very least, the motion made the point.
All right, thank you very much. So I still have that motion, so I'm going to run with it. So.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I agree that we want to give the council members the discretion to do what they like with their discretionary funds. Just in light of the conversations earlier about the wanting to commit to TIP and its importance, I will still commit my $5,000 and we'll do it so as a motion.
All right, thank you very much. So I have a motion and a second from you.
Okay, wait a second here. Okay, so your motion to spend your dollars, or your motion to spend your dollars and my dollars? What are we doing
my
here?
dollars. My dollars and your
I
dollars.
will make the motion and put my money where my mouth is and not make
Absolutely.
it conditional on a membership of somebody else, that I will commit my $5,000.
An expression of our support.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so I have a motion and I have a second from Councilman Babazine. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
You weren't going to let him talk, huh?
Related to Miss Jordan's
Yes.
funds. I can support, I'm
I
not
put
going to
my
I'm
money
not
where
going to
my
vote.
mouth
I'm not going to vote because I don't
All right,
even
you
want to
guys,
be on
it's
record of
$5,000.
voting to
Just
tell her how to use her funds. So I'm voting nay.
And then this is a purely ceremonial motion to say, I'm putting my motion where my money in my mouth is and will commit $5,000 to TIP.
Right. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Would you gonna let me talk, or you just gonna ignore me?
Councilmember McKenzie, go right ahead.
So the question I had was just a clarification, is if the motion was intended to back 5,000 out of our discretionary funds and commit it to tip, or if it was to take it truly from discretionary. So that was the clarification I wanted. Everybody else, and I understood the motion to say that by voting for it, we were all committing each other's discretionary funds. The way I understood the intent was that we'd back 5,000 out of the discretionary funds and commit it to tip. But I just needed a clarification on that.
All right. Okay, so, anyway.
I'll withdraw my motion. There's a verbal commitment on the record. I'll stand by it.
Okay, so that being said, I have a verbal commitment from all council members. All right, I want the public to know I have a verbal commitment from all council members to donate money to TIP. Am I right, Councilmember Breckus?
So what is TIP?
Councilman Breckus, am I correct?
Well, Madam Mayor, last time you brought up an issue about pledging the contributions to nonprofits.
It's hard to decipher which ones are most important to everyone.
And so that's where I'm at.
So you're not?
I am
just
not,
wanna-
I am,
you're not.
my discretionary funds, the 30,000 that I have, will be going to city departments for city needs this year.
Okay. Councilman Bobzian.
Madam Mayor, and to try to bring this to a conclusion, this discussion
No,
about...
I just want everyone to say either you're.
No,
gonna
absolutely. No, I mean,
either
no, but trying
commit or not.
to point a way forward for us as a council to move on EDON. And look, I have my own critiques of EDON. I mean, I think that they provide tremendous value. They've definitely been a big part of our story of Reno's resurgence. Do I have my own areas of improvement identified for them that I'd like to see them pursue? Yes, I do. And I think to layer onto what we heard from the city manager about her commitment to sit down with EDON and open a conversation to try to address proactively some of the concerns that have been expressed here at council. I do also want to, I can't help but think of how much time we could have saved up here at the dais if we had maybe engaged in this strategy a little bit earlier. But there's something to be said for, we do also have a liaison to EDON, and I recognize that liaison is advisory in capacity only, but, maybe it's time that we request that our liaison sort of re-engage in the process, try to sit down, try to be more engaged with the other board members to find a way for our concerns and our needs to be met, and quite frankly, our economic development strategy to be more in line with what they're doing. And Councilman Breckus brings up a very good point, and I have the same concern looking forward to as we're standing up the downtown maintenance organization. We also heard the need for this coming out of ULI, that we do need a sort of a micro-focused, block-by-block economic development strategy that, for whatever it's worth, I don't think EDON is necessarily doing that right now because there's so much going on for them. I think it's a question of bandwidth. I don't find fault, but I think that that's one example of an area in which we could have a new conversation from a planning perspective of how we can be working together better, say, in the next 3 years. And so that would be one topic for the manager and the liaison to engage with EDON on. And so, I get it. We all have bandwidth. We all have levels of interest of what we want to do with our boards and commissions. But, certainly if the liaison wants to take that on, great. If we want to have another conversation about other paths, then let's have that. But I don't think that this budget discussion that we've had around this is the appropriate place for us to bring up those concerns. The other piece that I've heard, certainly new information to me, that Washoe County only pays $41,000. I that's important information, and maybe that does bring bearing on our next budget cycle and look at our membership. But hearing that Sparks may be considering reducing, that's not enough for me just yet. So just my thoughts on how to bring this home and move this forward.
All right, thank you. Okay. I understand. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I just want to, part of what we're trying to accomplish up here is something that is obviously incredibly important to Councilmember McKenzie. So, I want you to know that I'm all in as well. Vice Mayor Jarden is. I know you are. Councilman Bobzian is. Councilman Delgado is. And Councilwoman Dewar, am I right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the only one is.
And I also want to note that I'm the alternate liaison, and I'm willing to make a pledge to step up and do whatever I have to do.
All right, well, I appreciate that, and I also appreciate City Manager Newby's willingness to jump right in, and I think it's great. We have to continue to have that communication so they can understand our concerns. So thank you very much. So the only one that won't be is Councilwoman Breckus. Other than that, are you happy with that, Councilmember McKenzie?
I'm still not happy with $100,000 to eat on. I
Okay,
don't-
but let's keep that separate.
and-
I know you won't be, and I know you're angry, but at the same time, I don't, and I think Councilman Bobzian was correct. It wasn't about tip. Let's keep that
And
separate.
by the way, we're going to have to review an agreement with them. We're setting $100,000 aside and dedicating it to EDON that we could utilize for other things within our community that we're up here nitpicking about areas for. But the fact that it's budgeted means that that's what the agreement's going to come to us as $100,000. And I'm going to oppose it as well as the budget as long as the $100,000 is in it.
All right, thank you very much. Other than that, so can we just take a final motion then?
Yes, to adopt the budget with the one change
Yes.
for changing the $200,000 from room tax bathrooms to Jack Ty Park. And we will revisit $50,000 for arts in September, October out of the room tax, and revisit RCT in July for additional projects. A couple of things just to point out as Councilmember McKenzie mentioned, EDON agreement will come back before this is just allocating money. It is not actually authorizing expenditure. The dog park is currently in the RCT funding as a capital project. And you guys got us all scared here in budget that this was going to be hard. See how easy it was? And I'd like to really thank you guys for all of your help.
Went from bathrooms
I think
to
you
Yeah.
were really worried.
Yeah, I was really worried. I was thinking, oh my God, how are we going to get this done by June 1?
I keep saying the triple Ps, right?
Yeah.
Right, Councilwoman Dewar, potholes, parks, and police.
That was my theme.
Yep. All right.
And blight. Potholes, parks, police, and blight.
Yeah, it's not a P. So. Anyway, okay.
And that blight
Councilwoman-
might be about P.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Councilwoman Breckus, and then I'm going to go.
Sorry.
I thought okay, so the marijuana that's coming in as a revenue, is that 75, what did you book that as, 75,000?
No, it's 75,000 for what? Yeah, it's $75,000 per year for the business license.
So that
For
brought in
dispensary.
that early start brought in 75,000.
No, that's per dispensary.
Okay.
So it's bringing in approximately 220,000, which is helping to fund the attrition program for the police.
Okay.
That we had identified.
I think if for whatever reason, and there is some outside, questions, that revenue does not come in, in a timely fashion, I think we need to be be aware of
Well,
it, at least.
We have to, with all of our revenue sources, to look. We will.
Okay.
We watch them and juggle as we go.
Okay.
That's part of our job.
Okay. Well, I'm prepared for a motion, to make a motion, if that's what the mayor's looking for.
All right, go. Well, no,
But I thought
sorry,
Mr.
Councilman
your name-
Delgado.
Sorry, you were
Yeah,
there. Your
no.
picture was there and then it went off.
I know, right? No, I'll be really quick. just for the record, supportive of EDON, I'll be voting in support of our current budget as outlined. Wanted to bring up the conversation about, of course, leveraging and supporting our core services and our staff to do phenomenal work. So thank you to the staff and the directors and the departments. As the liaison to EDON, I will be more than happy to take forward conversations from the entire council in terms of how we can better work with EDON. I think there's a lot of miscommunication between theirs and ours. So look forward to those conversations here in the coming year. Again, I think they are an asset. Now it's a matter of us utilizing that asset to work with what we're trying to accomplish here. But again, Madam Mayor, they are not the driving force that brings companies and everyone else here. We as a council take a big piece of that pie. So I don't want you to feel like you're downplaying and giving all the credit to EDON. You do a
I
tremendous
wasn't giving
job,
the
and so
credit
is
to
the
EDON,
council.
but what I'm saying is they do work with all the companies that we possibly could not meet with and find locations or the services that they provide. That would be very expensive for the city to have an arm of an economic development piece. I think you're very valid in a lot of your concerns. I'm not saying that I think it's the community as a whole that goes out there and sells this city. It certainly isn't just one entity. It's everyone working together. So at the end of the day, I think everyone should be pretty proud that we represent this place very well.
That's all I have.
All right, so
Well, there's one more thing after this, too.
Go
So-
right ahead.
No, I was going to say, we also have to do a fee study, adopt the schedule. So go ahead with the
If
motion.
we had to do the study tonight, I don't know.
Yeah. So you have a motion?
So can I please get a motion from council? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Madam Mayor,
Go right ahead.
Sam Danae would like to
Okay,
speak
go
on this
right ahead.
item.
And you stayed here this entire time. I'm impressed. Usually you leave, do you not?
I'm going to put that on YouTube, what you just said.
You do.
For
You
the
usually
record.
leave us.
A compliment. I assume that's. Are you complimenting or making fun of me?
No, I'm complimenting
Most people
that
would think you're
stayed
making.
the
He
entire
sat through a
time.
whole budget. That guy
You
has
did.
got
You
to
sat through
get
the
a
whole
life
thing.
somehow. And by the way, I'm the only one here other than the police detectives over there. By the way, Sam DNA, the DNA of Reno government, and angels dancing on pinheads, stepping on peons. I've sat through this whole budget thing. It really wasn't that long, 3 hours roughly. And it's a $200 million budget. $200 million, 3 hours, 2.5 hours spent talking on what? Approximately $500,000 out of a $200 million budget. That means $199,500,000 was done perfectly, and it makes it sound like these guys are having problems because you spent all that time arguing about this and this deal about EDON. Ladies and gentlemen, nice smiley face. I've spoken in favor of EDON more than all the citizens added together. On the other hand, I've challenged EDON more than the other citizens added together. They do a good job. I always say that's not quite fair because the moms and pops are not getting the same advantages as these new companies coming in. And as a quick background, I was a driving force that brought Tesla and the Tesla effect to Reno that's driving all of these budgets and all of the stuff that you're speculating about. I was going to come up here and speak in favor of you keeping that $100,000, but I think you were reading my mind, and I don't know if a vote changed or two vote, and so it ended up, nice smiley face, ended up being 4-3. Hey, Colonel Cass, yeah, he's emailing me. Yeah, Colonel Cass, your $100,000 is safe, I guess, for now, and I'm in favor of the budget. Let's put this into perspective. $100,000 for EDON, and you want to bring it down to $50,000. I, all by myself, just on one thing, saved this community $150,000. You were going to do a job search for a new fire chief. You were going to do a job search for a new police chief. I ordered you to cancel the job search and hire those two people, and you did. Granted, you had some public comment. There's $150,000 that you listening, city manager, I single-handedly, she's not smiling either, sort of a smile, I single-handedly saved $150,000 because if I hadn't said that, you were all set to vote on job searches. That's for the record out there. As they close out, and they're going to vote for this $200 million budget right now, and who's at the meeting? I'm speaking for 300,000 people because nobody else is here. And we want this city to continue on. We're hoping that the new city manager that I got for you will do a good job and monitor this budget with the budgetary mystical magical man back there. With his help, I think we're going to work out okay. More importantly, you're going to have Sam to help you out. And that's number 4, ladies and gentlemen. One more to go.
Thank you, Sam. Any more public comment?
Not on this item, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
He needs to read the resolution.
Go right ahead.
This is resolution number 8370, resolution adopting the fiscal year 1718 budget, including tax levies and adopting the fee schedule for the city of Reno, Nevada for fiscal year 1718.
All right. Thank you.
Right, and can we have clarification on voting on item 6.1?
All right, so this is separate than Councilwoman Brecka's vote.
Move to adopt.
Motion.
Move to adopt.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 6-1. All right, Councilwoman Breckus. Just repeat your last motion.
Making that motion?
Okay. All right, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Madam Mayor, I'd like some discussion.
Okay, go right ahead.
In the fee schedule is an increase in sewer fees, which I think is kind of disingenuous, given the fact that we that we had enough in our sewer fund to use it to incentivize a developer. It doesn't seem reasonable to increase fees on residential residences and give incentives to developers and have them pay for those.
Sewer fees, Robert Chisel, I don't know if this is working, Robert Chisel for the record. Sewer fees were built into ordinance, and the ordinance
Separate and
dictated a CPI increase in the fee schedule. So
True, and they're outlined, but they are outlined in these fees that are being increased, the fee schedule, and I believe that they should be pulled from it, and we should look at them separately and not increase residential sewer fees. Since we had so much of a surplus, we could use it to incentivize.
I was going to say, I don't believe they're in the fee schedule because they were written into ordinance. So that was a separate action by council the increase would be effective October 1 when the sewer increase does take place.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Are so you're not opposed? You're not opposed? But you just voted in favor, correct? So motion. All right, so motion carries unanimously. All right. Okay, that's it. Next.
I'd just like to say thank you very much to the council for all your help. And we, with the new city manager, will be revisiting the process, and hopefully we'll make some more improvements next year and have a better process for you all to enjoy.
Thank you so much, and I hope you get rest tonight. I know how hard you've worked, and honestly, thank you for putting up with us as well. We know we're not easy, right? Anyway, all right. Go have a drink or go have fun. Go do something good. No. All right, thank you very much.
Yes. Madam Mayor, Sam Danae would like to speak under
right
general
ahead.
public comment.
Sam, DNA, Danae, the DNA of Reno government, heart and soul and body and mind. To put it in perspective, these people sit up here and they make throw everything, and they make $100,000 a year sitting up there in comfort, and the caviar on the 15th floor, all of that kind of stuff going down. And here is Sam Danae sitting here on his own, along with a policeman over there. But it's a great political science operation for you guys to learn about Sam being at this podium. George Washington, George Patton, anyone you can name all of those people. Albert Einstein, all added together in one package here and doing everything, nice smiley face for him. And there's the city attorney there doing everything philanthropically. The amount of things that I do. And I've just added a new one to my list, and you can't even put a price on this one. I was instrumental in the Air National Guard getting C-130s. I wasn't instrumental. I was the driving force. Everybody was fighting for them to get F-16 fighters back 10 years ago. I came to all of the 15 years ago. I came to all of the podiums and said, no, they need to get C-130s. They ended up getting C-130s. Another thing that I did, and that saved 300 jobs, $25 million of revenue for the city every year for 15 years, as opposed to getting a single-seat fighter plane that has no business in the middle of Reno anyway. Why haven't I gotten, I don't even know what, there's nothing you can give me. You can't even build a statue big enough to justify all the great things I've done. And he knows it. They all know it. But, I'm going back to my fallback position. I wish there was something in the budget, and I should have brought it up, something in the budget to allow everybody in the community to have equal access to the body snatching program. There has to be a body snatching program somewhere. That's all. Yeah, the city attorney says, yeah, I need therapy. I know. There has to be some kind of a body snatching program that I have not been allowed to join. And look at it. All of those bodies up there, deers in the headlights, body snatch people, and they won't even want to laugh at me and say, that's crazy. They say, Sam finally found out. He finally found out all these bodies have been snatched, but when do I get mine snatched? It just isn't fair. How about chewing gum up there? Well, I'm chewing real fast as I talk about that. Where can I go? Where else can I? Can you give me another analysis of why this great person is not recognized as the great person he is, and how I join my humbleness and my brilliant extemporaneous propagandization against the city council? How come there is not a statue somewhere for me? Or actually, how about an offshore account of about $1 million? What you really should do is put Sam on a retainer, and when you guys don't know what to do, which is all the time, quite often, call Sam on speed dial, and there you will go.
Remember, be nice or else. Remember.
How's it working?
You are
I'm
nice.
being nice.
You are
I'm
very
telling the truth. I always tell the truth. Thank you over there, and thank you, and thank you.
Thank
You
you,
can turn the
Sam.
camera off now.
Sam, do you want a piece of gum?
What?
You want a piece of gum? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You're welcome. Appreciate all the work. Vicki, thanks for all the work you did.
Oh, my God. I thought for once my red face was going to fail me. I thought your red face was going to fail you, too. Ooh. It was a marathon. I know, right?